call this meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Diana.
Dave Campbell.
Here.
Stephen DeArmond.
Here.
Mark Terry.
Here.
Larry Sear.
Here.
Aaron Wilson. Bill Wilson.
Here.
Nina Shade.
Here. Okay, now would be the time for hearing of persons present. Mr. Hornbaker, I believe that you, oh, there you are, first on our list today.
He's on a lot of lists.
He's on a lot of lists. Could you give us your address just so that we,
310 South Brown Street.
thank you.
Okay. My concern is the firemen's convention that's coming to town in the middle of next month. In light of what is happening with the pandemic situation, it is getting worse in Pennsylvania. Every day it's getting worse. We added 2 more to the count today. Our count in Mifflin County keeps growing, even though we have done very well. The surrounding counties are growing in the amount also. Now, there's going to be a lot of people coming from the Maryland border to the New York border, everywhere in between, a lot of counties that have a lot of bad case counts. Do we really want that to come to Mifflin County? This is nothing against the firemen. It's nothing against any emergency services. It's nothing against anybody that works here that could benefit from that, has businesses here. It has nothing to do with that. It's the health and safety of our community. And I feel as though emergency services is there to protect the community. That's why we have them. And also our council should strive hard to protect the community. Therefore, I ask the council to reconsider allowing this to happen. It may not even happen anyway. We may get shut back down that it can't happen. But do we still want to jeopardize our citizens? That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Angie, you're next.
Hi, I'm Angie Van Syak. You want to know my address?
Yes, please.
Okay, 17 North Wayne Street, Lewistown. May I pass?
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm here today to talk about the Chestnut Street property that's slated for potential demolition. And I'm a little bit late coming into this. However, I just learned of the plans for this property probably within the last 2 weeks. So I've been getting involved trying to become aware and knowledgeable about the situation so that I could at least go the proper channels for advocacy. So what I am sharing with you today is a petition for public support that I organized and put together with my friend and business partner, Edward Town. How we got involved with this was we were deciding how we were going to start getting involved in Lewistown for revitalization efforts. And we started going, spending a lot of time on Valley Street and Chestnut Street over the last 2 months because we have the intention to invest in a property, but we've been doing our due diligence because if we invest in a property in that neighborhood, we don't want to just invest in a property. We actually want to see the revitalization and an attempt made to try to turn around those communities into a walkable neighborhood. Now, I've lived here my whole life, so I understand the challenges of those neighborhoods and that area, but I will say I've seen 6 properties on Valley Street, and I've also seen 3 properties on Chestnut Street in that general area in the last month. And we've been doing our due diligence to kind of see what we can do. Now, Ed and I got into this because we care about historic preservation, we care about restoration. But we're not purists in that way, and we understand the gravity of the situation with all of that. However, we are networkers, we're relationship driven, and we have been spending a lot of time talking to people that live in those communities, local entrepreneurs, local business people that are in those walkways. And so when we talked about this, we got a lot of positive response. And we've got a lot of new developers in our area that are young, that are trying to do right by our downtown, that are engaged, they're interested, but they want to see a collaborative effort. The Moores have done a fantastic job with the 5 Points building, turning the aesthetic of that property as a linchpin property for Valley Street to start going down the road. So when I learned that the property across the street, within clear visibility of 5 Points, that still has beautiful historical architectural details that, while is in very bad shape at this moment, it does not seem to be beyond the ability to be restored. So I learned when I went to the commissioner's office, or the commissioner's meeting almost 2 weeks ago, I did some research and I found out that this property was on repository. And so in that process, I understood the wholesale bid option. And while I know that the Habitat for Humanity is interested in buying it with the intent to demo it, to put new buildings up, I was able, because they didn't do their bid right the first time, to engage some other people that are interested in doing something about that property. And I know that there is at least a second sealed bid that went in to the commissioner's office today. And so I'm here because my understanding is that you guys, as the Borough Council, are all part of the need for approval of any bid. If that second bid is not the highest bidder, then it comes to the commissioners, to the Borough Council, and to the school board. And so I am asking for your consideration to not accept a bid that you know has the intent to demo, when we actually have a business owner here who has already taken 2 properties and has started to do some great things with those, to be able to turn that building around and create a mixed use original intent of what that building was. So I put this together. You can just kind of see what our bullet point intent is for what we would like to see. And sorry, I've got the dry mouth. But our priority and focus is revitalization of the downtown Lewistown. But we think that that is the next neighborhood. We can't do anything to take back our buildings that have been torn down on Market Street, but we can certainly do something about the ones that are still there on that triangular neighborhood. And then also to just look at this as an incremental development of once thriving neighborhoods as an essential way to approach this. Restoration is a long-term best economic and environmental option, as it maintains our city fabric and keeps irreplaceable resources out of the landfill. Creating a walkable community that embraces that architecture, heritage, and history of a local community that will build for stronger growth. And forward vision and planning that addresses blighted areas to save our places if they're not beyond that point. And so I'm here because I believe effort is the enemy of apathy, and I'm here to say that I am not alone. I might be alone tonight, but I'm just asking for your consideration on this, and willing to bring more to the table if you so choose want me to come back. So thank you.
What time frame may you be talking about, could I ask?
Well, that would depend on the person that's purchasing it. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not in a position that I could do the bid this time, but I do know that the local business owner that is interested in doing it has been very proactive with all the properties that he has now. He's also a veteran, and he has access to programs that give him funding for being able to do these kinds of things, in addition to what funding is available locally. So, another consideration. I can't give you a time frame.
So is there an actual plan for this specific property?
I became aware of this less than 2 weeks ago. So within 2 weeks, I did my due diligence. I went out. I found 2 people that were interested. Unfortunately, the second person was not able to get a bid in when it closed at 4 o'clock on Friday. But, I mean, not a plan other than the fact that that storefront, if you look in that window, I've not been inside it because I don't think anybody can be inside it, but if you go to the front, and you see the storefront, there are beautiful features in there that still look like they remain intact. I believe the upstairs and the back of the property looks like it's going to be the biggest challenge, but the storefront and that front part, I would imagine that once the building was secured, restored enough to bring it up to code, that would probably be the first point of wanting to do something. And I guess I just ask you to consider, let's not do what we always do and just keep doing the same thing. Let's think outside the box, because what's going to make us relevant here is to keep something going that's going to engage our young people. And these young entrepreneurs that are coming here, they're doing that. So why not give them a chance? And one other thought, while I have nothing against the Habitat, I think what they do is great, but what does not make sense to me is the fact that why would we put housing right in a busy intersection beside a VFW bar on a street that still has known drug problems? It just doesn't make sense.
Well, I think the issue is, and much like, listen, you may not, well, maybe you would, but I was going to say you probably won't find a bigger history geek than me. I love history, okay?
Right.
I teach my children the same. And I thought that I was devastated to see the bank in town come down, which once, helped to compose Banker's Corner, which built many things in this community financially. I don't know of a lot of historical significance of this building other than the age. I understand that there was a bar and there was a hotel there at one point. I guess what I'm getting at is the issue that local elected officials and revitalization programs face are that these buildings sit with nobody having done anything for 20 and 30 years until the hand of local elected officials are forced to do something. And I guess I just want you to kind of understand that's really the last straw.
Right.
We're not out seeking, those
I understand
opportunities,
that.
so to speak.
I absolutely understand that. And what I will say is, even though I would never have been in favor of those buildings coming down where the CVS went up, I wasn't part of the effort. I had enough. And I know that this is very late in the game, but the thing is, you actually do have an active movement of people buying properties here, and timing is everything. I said to another local business owner that's very well respected here, which I will not say his name, he was, out of all the people I spoke to, very pragmatic about taking an effort for Valley Street and Chestnut Street, because he's been there, done that, tried it, failed. And what I said to him was, just because you failed doesn't mean that somebody else trying to pull together a collaborative effort right now, while there are multiple people that are in that younger generation that are not only caring about properties for rental purposes, but also for business purposes. So I guess my answer to you is, I understand where you guys are coming from, but I can't get involved with what I'm saying that I'm advocating for and not try to stop this when we know we have somebody who's willing to try.
And I do agree there. Over the last, I'll say 5 years, maybe not quite that long, there has definitely been kind of a cultural shift, if you will, in people that are willing to invest in our community, not only through buildings, through events and through things of that nature.
I still think that what's left on Market Street that's sitting vacant there's ability there, but a lot of them are huge commercial buildings that don't lend itself to a walkable community. I mean, I'm not kidding you guys. I have spent hours on Valley Street and Chestnut Street over the last 60 days talking to neighbors, talking to business owners. And it's a prime time because we've got business owners that are about ready to flush out into retirement. So if an intentional collaborative effort starts to actually go into that area and we all kind of make an effort on it, it could be the time. It could be the right time. And if it isn't, at least we did our best with trying. And that's what I'm just asking you guys to give us a chance.
Do you know when the bids will be open?
They were supposed to be open today. So,
Probably not.
yeah. So, I mean, it's nothing against Habitat or anything that happened, you know, with that. I mean, I think it's great because from my understanding, these buildings have been sitting empty. At least somebody was willing to do it. But you know what? Catalyst for change is what's always needed to make an impact. I don't want to be coming in a position of going against the flow when I'm first getting involved, but if that's what it has to be in order for us to try to save that canvas that has really not been touched yet, I'm willing to do it. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to say something?
The time frame. What was the question for the time frame? You said about time
I
frame?
think, he's asking you, I think you may.
Well, I think it was Larry's question, but I
Oh,
kind
okay.
of followed up on it. I think the question was, you know, there's this talk, or there's this kind of new ambition for this to become a project, for this to become revitalized, restored. And I think we were kind of trying to get an idea of, are we talking maybe that can be completed in a year? Or are we talking?
Under a year. I'm the one that did it. So 90 days to fix the outside and start working on the inside. The little point is just not to tear down there's not necessarily a historical value in a sense, but to be able to see it, to pull up to 5 points, to see that beautiful building to the left, to see what you guys did in the center, and then to see a bunch of townhomes, you know, not necessarily a bad thing, but restored, it needs to be walkable, so from one end to the other. And you have people, I imagine the goal was for people to sit outside out there, and you look to the left and you see that building, and you see the same environment that was there before. You know, how safe is it, or how comfortable are you sitting out there? You know, now it's like that, I heard the porta shop, the porta place is sold out to, someone's gonna put in a hair salon there, so that's something that's supposed to be good.
Builders, I think.
Yeah, right, so it'd be under a year, especially with the outside and starting to work properly. There'll be rental properties and then out front, down at the bottom, you can go over and check it, it's to operate out there.
Did that answer your question, Larry? Okay. Thank you. Now, Laura, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Hey, good evening. My name is Laura Simonetti. I work for Mifflin County GIS. I'm the GIS director there. And with me is Mary Bratton, who's our chief assessor with Mifflin County. And my assistant is my mother. She came along for the ride tonight. So we are here tonight to talk to you about the final part of our project. You are the last municipality that we will be working on our overarching Operation Fairness project, but specifically Pictometry project is what we're calling it. So back in 2016, 2017, we started working on the first part of the project, which was updating our per capita records. So we had people canvass the entire county, trying to get a better hold on the numbers of per capita that we have. We have updated those, but the bigger part of the project, which mainly is what I'm here to talk to you about tonight, is what we call our Pictometry project. So back in late 2015, we signed a contract with an aerial photography company called Pictometry, and 50-some counties across the state have signed with them. They provide aerial photography from an airplane, not a drone. There's a misconception out there about the drone. We do not use drones. And we use that as a base map for everything we do in our GIS. It's also used in public safety, it's used in planning, it's used in assessment. So that base map imagery is really important to what we do. With that, we not only got rooftop imagery, but we had what are called oblique images. And those are images that are taken at a 45-degree angle. So basically, we have the ability to fly around every single home or structure and actually see more than the rooftop. So I'm sure a lot of you have been on Google Maps. You can take a look at imagery. All you see is a roof, unless you're looking at street map. The oblique imagery looks a little bit more like the street map, so we start to see different parts of, porches that we really couldn't detect when we were just looking at the rooftop imagery. So what we've done with that imagery is we've used that to compare what we see with our property record cards. So if you own a house and you have a house and a shed, and that's what your property card says, and that's what we see in the picture. If everything matches up, great. If it doesn't, it gets flagged. And so we actually started this project in Meadow Township. We worked our whole way through Big Valley, came down to the southern portion of the county. You all are the last municipality, so we are coming into the home stretch here, but you're also a very condensed municipality. We haven't really been through one of these before. So what we're here to talk about is, one, to educate you on what we're doing. You've probably read about this project in the paper over time. Some of you might be sick of hearing about it, but we really want to just give you a chance to ask any questions you have for us. And also, if your residents were to ask you any questions, you would be in the loop versus I don't know anything about it. So the process in the GIS department, we do all what we call discovery. So every property gets looked at, and if the property card and the picture match, we move on to the next one. And we have kind of a very systematic system, for lack of another word, a very systematic process to this. Whatever gets flagged then goes to Mary's office, and it will get field checked. Now, sometimes we think we see something, and when somebody's on the ground and actually takes a look at it, it may not be quite what we thought it was. But no changes are made sitting behind a computer. Everything needs field checked. So this has really become just part of our day-to-day process. We've been doing this the last few years. And with the imagery, our neighbors, Huntington County and Juniata, were also flown different times, same time. When they fly and capture imagery from an airplane, they don't stop at county boundaries, so they have to go in a little bit. And so we actually have a lot of updated imagery from Huntington. They flew in 18 and 19. We have some of their imagery that we've been able to use in a lot of our county as well. Not in the borough here, but Pima actually has taken the last few years and flown and provided updated imagery for all the counties in PA. They finally finished capturing the entire state this spring. We don't have that delivered yet, but we should be getting that here late summer, early fall. So prior to anybody having a site visit, we do send out postcards to people that will be field checked, and that at least lets them know that, hey, somebody will be by. And if somebody does come, they're going to get like a pink door hanger on their door, so there's no surprises that way. We don't really make individual appointments because it would be sort of impossible to meet with everybody. But this way, we started sending the postcards about halfway through, and it's really helped the perception, and people aren't as upset about it and calling in. But we definitely want to provide you a chance if you have any questions at all about what we're doing. This has been open from the beginning. If you ever want to see anything we're looking at or your own property, you want to just, we welcome you to come in. What we usually do then is when we're done with everything in a municipality, we'll come back out with a list of all the changes that were made. I also want to stress, everybody's taxes are not going up. Many, many, many properties have come down, and some good examples are some farm properties where they've torn down. We've had people that tore down structures 10 years ago and they never reported it, so they've been paying on that for the last 10 years. So we're definitely adjusting both up and down. I think for a little while there was a misconception that we're just adding things, and we're really not. So the goal of Operation Fairness is to make the tax base fair. So you pay your taxes on what you own and not on the new house down the street that hasn't been reported. Another part of this is we really want to encourage keeping the communication of the building permits going. So that is actually a big thing that we've struggled somewhat with in certain areas of the county. It's really critical as a municipality that you are sending those building permits to the county on a regular basis, because that way things aren't going to get missed, or somebody isn't getting, a couple years later then be added. So again, we're trying to keep the records up to date as much as possible, and we really rely on all of you who are issuing the permits to keep that communication going. So if you have any questions at all, I'd be happy to answer them. Any concerns? Mary, did I forget anything?
I don't think so.
I tried to cover everything. I made this speech so many times, so I should be pretty good at it by now. But even if you think of something later and you want to give us a call or just stop on in, we're on the second floor. Our offices are right next to each other. We've been open about all of this from the beginning.
When will it start, Lauren?
Well, the discovery part we've actually already started, and we're well on our way with that, but we did not want to send anybody out in the field until we met with all of you. So I assume sometime maybe later this week.
Probably Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay. You might start seeing somebody at your house.
Do you
maybe not.
notify people when their taxes are being changed?
Yeah, so what actually happens is if we find a change, plus or minus, you will get a letter from the assessment office, and that will let you know that a change has been made. If you have any questions at all, you can always call in about that. I know I've answered some questions about the difference in the change of assessment versus the tax dollar. So about $7,000 of assessment value equals $100 of tax value. So some people get a little concerned when they see a little change either way. That really hasn't amounted to a whole lot. So yeah, so we'll start sending postcards, and that way your residents will also be notified if you are going to get a visit. The minimum taxable structure is 200 square feet. So if you have anything less than that, that won't be added. But anything 200 or more will get checked. And in my case, I'll just give an example. I have a shed that comes in under that. I actually had it taken off. So, I mean, it's probably a couple dollars a year. But 200 square feet is the minimum amount that can be taxed.
Unless it has utilities.
And also has utilities, that's right. Or if you have a shed that, let's say, 150 square feet, but has utilities connected to it, the utilities allow that to become taxable. So that would get checked. Now, we can't always see that, but on the ground, if somebody's out there, you know, they would be able to pick that up. So again, everybody's been looked at. They've gone up, they've gone down. It just really depends, and that's why it's really important to keep that communication with the building permits. So we're, you know, I don't really want to pay for the house down the street. I pay enough. I think we all think we do, but you know, we want to make it a fair tax base as much as we possibly can.
I just have one question out of curiosity. What's the discrepancy between a drone taking the pictures or a plane? I'm not sure
Okay.
why you iterated on that.
Well, a drone can capture pretty much what a plane can, vice versa. They're both capturing aerial photography. However, with a plane, the images are captured digitally, and they can capture a whole lot. And in this case, when they send the planes up, which when they did send the plane up, the camera's just snapping pictures constantly, and especially with the obliques, it's actually flying around the structures. If you ever want to see one, come on in, we'll show them, they're pretty cool. But they just continually snap the pictures. Drones, I don't think, have the ability to capture imagery in that large of an area at one time. So, I mean, a plane isn't going to capture an entire county in a day, but in a couple of days it can do that. And we were actually flown by the same company, Mifflin, Juniata, and I think Perry. We were flown regionally. So there are a lot of counties that are using the imagery in this way and other ways as well. But it's really kind of neat to be able to see what's going on in the structure. And we think about like public safety, you know, they can actually see entrances, exits, windows, where you can't get that from a rooftop image. Again, land use, assessment, I mean, there's a whole variety of things that we can use the imagery for. So, any questions from anybody from the public?
700.
I'm sorry?
It was 700. It was a
7,000.
7,000.
7,000 assessment value.
Based on county.
Equals about 100.
Oh, county's millage, okay.
Villages are a little higher. So it would be a little less than maybe around 6,000. Anything higher than about 6,000 will create about $100 assessed.
Yeah, there are different millages for different municipalities, and that factors in a little bit. But for the county, the about 7,000 assessment value equals $100 in tax dollars. So. Any questions from anybody? And what we'll do is when we're all done, we'll come back and we'll share all that. Like I said, we've been open from the beginning of this. If you ever want to see, we'll probably give you a list like we have done with every other municipality of, you know, just like last name, parcel number, maybe the adjustment that was made and the values, and that way you'll be able to see. But we want to keep you informed as we go along. So if you have questions or your residents have questions, you know, send them in. I know it's COVID time, but, you know, with the mask, we can sit down and help them too.
The imaging, is it clear enough, like, you know, we have issues with buying properties. Like if, what you see, like a balcony falling down.
Oh, yes. Well,
Is it that detailed that maybe we should be there?
we can definitely see garbage. Like we can see piles of things. I should add too, when we signed the contract, I don't know how many of you are familiar with resolution of pictures, but a 9-inch picture and a 6-inch picture and a 4-inch picture and a 1-inch picture are completely different. The resolutions, and the lower you go, the better it gets. So we actually took, so the county was laid out in tiles. We took 22 of those tiles through the Lewistown, a little bit of Granville, Lewistown corridor, through Burnham, Reedsville, Milroy, and we brought up to a 4-inch resolution. So we even have better quality in the borough, so we can really tell. But yes, it's clear when there's a lot of garbage somewhere, we can see that. And if it makes everybody feel better, I was on the list too. So I failed to see that my, what used to be a slab was now a porch. You know, it wasn't a huge change, but if you want to come in and take a look at your property card before all this, I mean, you're welcome to come in anytime and look at that, but we just want to make sure that everybody is being taxed fairly and that the property record cards are brought up to current date. Okay?
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yep. Anybody else want to speak? Okay, I know you spoke last time, but I don't remember your name, so if you could tell us that again, it would be great.
My name is Jeremy Lewis. I live at 15 Stone Road Court. I think we all know why I'm here. First question. Have the documents that were requested by the council been provided from the department?
Right here.
As well as the GPS locations?
I don't have GPS for every one of these things. That's all documented.
All right. And has the council been shown that?
Not yet.
Okay. So, as a working citizen, I go to work. I am given a task, a responsibility. I'm made to fulfill that. If I do not fulfill that task, I'm held accountable. I'm curious at what point is accountability reached in this borough? Whether that's through the police department, the mayor, and the council. At what point, and who's accountable to who? Because it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of it.
I don't know what you're referring to because the officers have been there numerous times in this past month. So I don't, what accountability do you want? I mean,
Well, how long did it take for you to provide those? 4 months?
what are you talking about? This is the meeting after the last meeting.
Yeah, it was requested 4 months ago.
And we haven't seen that, so
Exactly.
I can't, and I just, you know, from last meeting, we asked for it again, so, but we intend to fully take a look at it, and unfortunately, it just didn't happen before this
And
meeting.
I would like to commend Sergeant Roberts, who's the first officer to show any real initiative on the reservoir speeding issue. He made it possible for speed lines to be painted. However, the street department was a little bit lacking in getting it done, but they did manage to get it done. However, in the last 3 weeks since those lines have been painted, there's not been a single officer sitting in my property to use those lines, to utilize them for what they're intended. I had Officer Callahan at my house yesterday evening because I called in again. And he had informed me that he had been on since 12 o'clock the night before, and his shift ended at 6 p.m. I feel like that's a little bit overboard. I know that we're short-staffed in the department, but if that's the case, maybe we need to look at hiring some department personnel if we're short, that we have to make people work such long shifts. 12 p.m. midnight to 6 in the evening the next day, that's a little rough. And then you look at all the news and all of the policemen that are being accused of acting poorly on their job. Well, it's no wonder they're exhausted. With that being said, he was also present today where my wife asked him if he was going to utilize the speed enforcement lines. He informed her that he does not have the appropriate equipment to do the speed enforcement in his car because he said he was waiting for Sergeant Roberts to return from vacation to provide him with that, as he's a part-time officer.
I don't have knowledge of that, so,
Well,
sorry.
But wherein lies the accountability? This is what I'm getting. We have this circle of us chasing our tails and nothing being really accomplished. We have multiple officers sitting up at Buchanan School. They love to communicate with each other while they're there on patrol. I'm sure many of the marked log reports for those incidents have been those times where they're sitting there chatting. I'm sure both officers probably logged that they were on the same incident. But they're really not doing their job when they're sitting there chatting. How aware are you when you're having the conversation?
Have any of you taken the time to get license numbers? To give us, something to go on? There's
License numbers of what?
Of some of
License?
the speeding.
License plate numbers?
Yeah.
Well, how fast are you at reading license plate when they're going 45 miles an hour?
Well, if I'm determined, I
But I think
Okay.
that's a whole different issue. I do think that we need to look
And
at
there
the-
also is a privacy
Yeah.
issue if I start snapping photos of people's license plate, and that falls on me for violating people's privacy.
well, if you see someone in particular,
Well, I've almost been hit multiple times.
if someone in particular that is doing it like on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah, there's several, and I addressed that with Officer Callahan, and he said they're already aware of the one guy. And he's been cited and cited and cited, but he always pays his fines and nothing gets done.
Well, you can't do anything more for a traffic violation than cite someone, that's all you can do.
No, he seemed to have a few other ideas of what can possibly happen if the borough decides to push the issue, but that apparently isn't the case. I would just like to know at what point are we going to enforce the law? We've taken the
The
time.
law's being enforced, I think you're being unreasonable here. We have basically 2 officers on every day, they have multiple calls, we had 457 calls last month.
Okay.
I mean, these guys are spending some time up there, I don't know what more do you want?
Well, drive-bys don't really count as time, but.
You don't have any idea what the officer does when they stop somebody. We've had at least 3 occasions where somebody was stopped up there who had a warrant, or drugs were found, or a gun was found in one case,
Officer
and they were
Callahan-
taken to jail.
Officer Callahan expressed that.
So, I mean, those things happen too. You can't say just because an officer sits there for a half hour and makes a couple stops, that he didn't do anything. I mean.
Well,
they're
no,
doing
I
stuff.
think if they're making stops and a couple stops in a half an hour, it's fantastic, but when they drive by and don't sit, how are you gonna catch somebody?
They do.
Officer Callahan stood with me in front of my property on Reservoir Drive. And he expressed on multiple occasions that had he not been standing there visibly, there would have been quite a few people.
Yeah, I agree with you. And when the officer's there, you're not gonna see as many violations. But we can't sit there 24/7.
And I'm not asking you to.
It seems like that's what you want, but we
No.
cannot do that.
I'm not asking that.
The officers have spent multiple occasions up there in the last month. I know they have because I've been keeping an eye on it through the GPS when somebody says they're up there, or I see where the car's at. So I know they've been there.
Okay, my other question is, and this actually goes in your favor and supports you, okay? I know that you are a bit overwhelmed with the size of your department not being fully staffed. That brings my question is, why do we only have 2 officers on patrol a day? As you just
Because
stated.
that's the manpower we have.
But why?
You said about an officer working 18 hours. Yeah, because we have guys that go on vacation, guys that call in sick.
Mhm.
Military.
No, I understand that, and I
We
appreciate
work
all
what we
that.
have to work. I mean,
I appreciate that sacrifice, I really
Uh,
do. My
right now,
question
we're
is-
down 1 officer. We're planning on
Yeah,
testing
because
here.
he just moved.
We're testing here this month to hire a new officer, so.
Oh. Okay, so the amount of money that's being poured into the department, are we seeing, I'm asking this as an honest question, are we seeing that return? Are we seeing that return in citations, violation citations? Are we seeing that return? And I'm not saying this as that you're not doing your job. Please don't misunderstand me.
Are you talking a monetary return?
Yeah. Is the borough, are we?
Well, it's not the
Well,
purpose
Well,
of
you
the
never
police
get back what
department
you spend
to
in.
generate revenue.
Okay, so
Yes,
I mean,
'cause there's
it's not an
equip-
even
there's a- yes,
exchange.
I know that.
Okay.
I know that. There's equipment that has to be purchased. Would their vests have to be repurchased every so many years? There's a lot of
Right.
equipment expense, and I
But I
understand
think the
that.
more important thing is, are we safe?
Are we?
You know, I mean, I think that's probably the better judge of, are we getting what we pay for, more so than
Well,
money,
that's
you know
a
what I
return.
mean?
That's a return.
That is a return, that's why I'm asking what kind of return you were referring to.
I'm asking, are we seeing the return from tax dollars? Because that's essentially what it comes down to. Are we seeing the return? And again, do not take this as I'm saying you're not doing your job. Take it as, are we staffed in such a way that this borough is safe and that we are maintaining a level of law and order?
Well, I think it's a lot safer than it would be without them.
Well, that's kind of a new point.
But, I mean, I don't know what you're
I'm not-
asking.
I'm not asking-
If we had more officers, would we be more
Okay.
safe?
Yeah,
So what do we need to do to make that
Possibility
happen?
that you could do more with more officers.
There's always more you can do with more bodies, so why don't we have them? That's what I guess I'm
Well, it's a
asking.
matter of money
Budgetary.
and expense.
Honey.
Okay, but we're pouring already an exorbitant amount of money into a very small department, okay? We have a broad footprint as a borough, and we have, what, 6 officers?
We have 10 full-time.
officers.
10 full-time,
Mhm.
okay? So there's only 2 on it a day? And then nights? So they work in what, 12, 14-hour shifts?
12 hours.
12-hour shifts,
Okay, so I feel like something's a little overbalanced here, overweighted. They're working 14-hour shifts,
12 hours.
12-hour shift, but 12 p.m., 12 midnight to 6 p.m. is more than 12 hours.
Well, that was an
Exception, that's
overtime
not all the
situation.
time.
That
That
happened
paid that
occasionally.
because he's part-time. But my point is are we seeing the return of what we're putting into the department? Because it's not staffed properly for the size of the area that they have to cover. So I propose maybe to the borough, to the finance committee, where do we need to adjust? What needs to happen that we could maybe put more bodies in the department so that he can utilize his people better? Because, again, don't take this as an offensive way.
I'm not, I mean, I'm all for more officers, but I know the budgetary constraints too, so. I mean,
Well, that's why
I
I'm
understand
asking the
both
borough,
sides.
I'm
Well,
asking
and you
you
know
as
what,
the
we never
council.
stop looking at what we can do to make people safer. We're all
And I-
members of this
and Again, I'm not
community.
gonna ask you to raise my taxes so that you
Correct,
can fund more people.
correct.
But the money that's being spent already, you know, can it be redirected in such a way that he can have adequate personnel to do his patrols? I mean, I understand there's vacations, there's sick leave, and that's all part of normal everyday life.
Budget season's coming up. We can certainly always take a look and to find our tooth comb of what we can do, but
Well, I have some issues with some of, again, it's not my place maybe to argue this, but I feel like some of the street funding has been sent maybe in directions that maybe should have been sent other ways, but the council made those decisions already, and there's really no going back on that. But,
Like what?
what, a $14,000 plow for a front end loader when we have trucks that have holes in the floorboards?
Well, I mean, we still have to remove snow.
Yes. But the only time,
Well,
for
we
the
can't
most
sit
part, the
and
loader
do-
only comes out to remove the piles off the streets. So what purpose does a plow have for that when you use it to scoop into the trucks?
Actually, that'd be a Tim Plank question. I'm not exactly sure how he
okay, so
utilizes
anything
his
else that we
plowing
can do
staff.
for you, Jeremy?
Aside from maybe utilizing what I pushed really hard to get some speed enforcement lines
Oh, and we gotta look.
through Officer Roberts because he decided to go one step farther than driving by and giving me an excuse. I commend him for that, and I think that that should be reflected to him. But we got the lines, let's use them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate you coming back in. Anyone else wishing?
Question for you.
I'm sorry.
More
Can you-
towards,
Hey, can you hold on a second? Do you want to, anybody on the call, do you want to state your name?
And your address, please?
sorry, this is Aaron, Councilman Wilson. Again, I apologize for not being there. Family issue, families. I always wanted to be, but to the chief, how many people are you looking to hire? I know I've seen a couple posts that you're looking to hire. So how many people are you looking to hire?
We only have one opening right now, one officer left, so that's the only opening we have at this time.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. You good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
I'm gonna be short. I have 108 Valley Street, that former Fame House.
Oh, okay.
And we're like, I've heard about development and so forth, but I'm gonna make mine short that we're creating a fire museum down there, it's taking us a while. I'm here that the water is gonna be turned on in the next few days
At your place you're talking?
at 108 Valley
Okay.
Street.
What's your name, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry, Tim Pavlik,
Path. How can you spell that for me?
Pavlic.
Thank you, Tim.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And we are going to do we're doing some improvements, we pulled permits. I wanted to ask, when the water goes on, and I've heard this before, a little forgiveness on the sewer water, on the sewer part, because we're gonna be having the building cleaned on the outside. We've already made arrangements for that.
You know what
To-
I'm talking about.
And,
So the water's
So
not
the-
going
so-
into the
so
sewer?
it's
no, it's not
bills
going into the
for
sewer.
cleaning
The
up.
old thing.
We're getting a
Right.
company that locally, his name's Folk, I think Justin Folk. He's doing what they call a soft wash instead of a hard power wash. He uses some kind of system. And we want to clean the building. We want to make the neighborhood look good. You know, we got a little bit of a ghetto up there, so we got to make something look good. So,
Kudos to you.
like I said, the water has been on since '07. And we've had the plumber in to do things correctly, and the water department came in Friday, and I saw a couple things I want to change, so they didn't turn it on yet. And I called and talked to the mayor briefly about this, and wanted a little bit of forgiveness on the sewer, so that the wastewater, because it's not going into the sewer. There's going to be a lot of it not going to the sewer, but any forgiveness would help us. And we're not, we don't have a, bottomless pockets, so it's taken us a while to get where we are. And we're restoring the bell tower, so you can visually see it from Dorcas Street. It's slow going, but we're getting there. And there's just a lot going on. So that's all I want to say. I don't want to take too
I
much time.
commend you on your efforts and thank you for putting that effort in.
Well, we're trying to make a tourist attraction, bring people to town. And over the 10, 12 years we've been there, people come from nowhere, and we don't even advertise. We have a guest book that we've had from Maryland or whatever. They hear about it. We're going to have some dignitaries come to the
All
convention.
big things start small.
What's that?
All big things start small.
I understand that. It's not my first time. Thank you, folks, and please
Thank you.
consider my
I think Diana
request.
had some information for you.
There are actually two options there. We have a sewer reduction meter that you can actually purchase. It's around $250, but that's for continual if you would like to get your exonerated because it didn't go down the sewer. The other option is that would be based upon council's approval. The council would actually have to make a motion to exonerate a percentage portion of what the amount would be. Without having something to go by, I wouldn't know what your regular normal consumption would be. So unless, if council would allow you to read the meter before and then read the meter after, that would be up to council's decision, and then you would have to let us know what the amount would be to exonerate that. But again, that would be council's decision. So those are the two options that you have.
Well, I'm not going to, it's not necessary to have a meter because we could either work out something between the base rate or something like that.
Yeah, are you utilizing the water, the
What's
regular
that?
water? You're utilizing the water, right? Correct, the city water?
All right, we were going to
Yes?
turn it on.
Yes.
We haven't had it
Yeah.
on yet.
Yeah.
You meant the
So-
exemption.
Yeah, that's what he's
Yeah, we
talking
don't
about.
need an exemption
He's
meter.
not gonna-
I think that
Oh,
we
It's like a
the
one-time-
sewer
If we come in-
reduction meter, you don't
we come
need a
in
sewer
somewhere
reduction,
between the
okay.
base rate or
Right.
something, a couple gallon, 1,000 gallons or something, so it's some help for us. Otherwise, the building will stay dirty, I guess.
You could actually go read the meter at
Yeah.
the beginning,
Yes.
and then once you do it, then read the meter at the ending. How many days is it gonna take you to finish it?
Only about maybe 2 or 3 days.
Okay, you could do that, and if council authorizes it, makes that motion, then we could exonerate that portion, When are you gonna do it? What was
As
the date?
soon as the plumber does some more things I want it done, to limit water going certain places in the building, because the water has been on since 2007. So we turn the water on, we're gonna have problems, some places where it got stuck and stuff. It will be this week.
When you get the bill
Yeah, I was gonna
involved,
say,
bring it in.
Yeah.
Once you get ready to do that, take your meter readings,
Yes.
and then if you come in, and once the bill comes, now again, it's quarterly, it's retroactively. So we could discuss it then at the council meeting, and then council can take directive on if, they choose to exonerate a portion of that meter. So
Well,
we
you-
can see what the consumption is, and we can see how much you utilized.
Well, to make it
Okay.
fair, I'd read it, before we start, and then when I end. so
Yes,
that,
correct.
Then
Exactly
anything
correct.
beyond that,
Right.
Nope.
that'd be
you got
fine
it.
with me. Just a
Okay.
little bit of exemption because we're cleaning the building and it's not going down the sewer. We have some floors to clean, we're gonna limit that water. Haven't been cleaned in 12 years. So they may be nice and clean for a change.
Good luck.
Well,
Thank
Tim-
you.
Tim, you can get a hold of me and let me know, and then we can look at that, okay? Whenever you're finished with it.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, now we have the approval of the walk works resolution. I think that's in front of everybody. Mark Calusi, for those of the individuals that weren't at the streets meeting, can you kind of fill them in as to what this is?
Yes, thank you, President Shea. So, as you mentioned, I was at Streets Committee meeting last week, and we had an opportunity to discuss an opportunity before us that is a grant program that the jointure between the Pennsylvania Department of Health and the University of Pittsburgh has for a program called WalkWorks. Since 2014, the Pennsylvania Department of Health has been actively working with the University of Pittsburgh to find ways through the built environment to reduce overweight and obesity rates while increasing physical activity throughout the Commonwealth. And one of the ways they're doing that is via the program they announced in their funding opportunity from May of 2020. It allows a variety of different municipalities across the Commonwealth to apply to develop what's called an active transportation plan. Active transportation plans allow communities to look at various ways to do basically non-motorized transportation, essentially connecting place to place via walking, biking, and public transportation. And we have had a lot of opportunities in our office, through the borough, through the surrounding dairy and Granville townships, on a variety of different feasibility studies on projects that utilize bicycle and pedestrian activity. For example, the study for the Mainline Canal Trail that would link the September 11th National Memorial Trail through the borough and the surrounding municipalities in the county. We also have recently worked with another consultant to develop a trail study that would link Victory Park to Rec Park and then down the Stone Arch Bridge, as well as connecting potentially the whole way to Kish Park in Derry Township. And then not only that, but currently Department of Transportation has hired a consultant to help us study the pedestrian, the vacuum of terms, the Amtrak traffic from the train along the Pennsylvania route between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh. There's a lot of different people throughout, particularly the center and western part of the state, that's looking at increasing the Amtrak route from one train a day to possibly as many as 3. But in order to do that, we need to make sure that the train stations along the route can accommodate that. And as you might all be aware, Amtrak doesn't currently own the route between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh, where they had sold it a number of years ago, whereas from Harrisburg to Philadelphia and then up to New York City, they do own their own route. But regardless of that, that particular study was looking at the surrounding area and how to connect that train station to the greater community. And as we all know, that the train station is located in Granville Township in the junction. And thinking through that, certainly we have a bus shelter right off the square, in the borough, and thinking about opportunities to connect the train station to the bus shelter, those public transportation opportunities in the borough, to our recreational opportunities I already mentioned. If we can look at ways to look at connecting them via bicycle and pedestrian, as well as if you have people using those facilities, you can create greater opportunities to increase foot traffic to our business community. Certainly there's a lot of great businesses in our downtown. As we heard already today, it sounds like there's more opportunities for more businesses. So one of the ways this particular active transportation study will look at is what are ways to get people more active so we can potentially lower the rate of obesity and overweight. There's a lot of statistics related to the increasing amount of obesity and overweight numbers, even in childhood numbers, which is quite concerning. So we have a great opportunity in this community where there's a lot of opportunities to look at encouraging these. So give all that context just to basically say that the county has already reached out to the township. We presented to the Streets Committee last week at developing a grant application to the Department of Health and University of Pittsburgh to develop an active transportation study. The great thing about this is it does not require any local cash match. It would allow us to apply for up to $20,000. It would allow us to hire a consultant to help us develop this active transportation plan. And it will move fairly quickly. The Department of Health will actually review these by September, get under contract, and then ask us to get that study completed by September of next year. My ultimate goal is, if this would be favorable both with you as well as the Department of Health, would be to hire a potential consultant we already worked on with one of our previous studies, because we don't simply have enough time to acquire a whole lot of data. The data's already out there. I'm speaking from a planner, and in a planning office, I hate doing plans just to do plans. Let's develop a plan that builds off what we already have and develop opportunities to make this community better. I'll just add this as a secondary component. Active transportation plans really do a great opportunity of looking at the built environment, education-wise, safety measures, a lot of different things to make the community better. But my second funding opportunity through the WalkWorks program is they do actually have the ability to develop walking trails and associated signage and pamphlets to allow community members to know where there's great places to walk. As we continue to develop things like the Rothermel Trail and potentially the River Trail Phase 2, as well as potentially connecting our parks, there's a great opportunity to encourage people to connect those. So maybe through the active transportation plan, will encourage us to look at those types of things to connect our community so that not only our own citizens know where to get, but people potentially coming off the bus or people coming off the train can know where to get a great sandwich, or maybe go buy something else that our vendors in the community serve. So I could go in a lot more detail if you like, but that's about the really quick summary I could provide you today. So, so in conclusion, what I'm asking for today is a resolution of support to put along with the grant application. I already wrote the grant, it's already done, so I'm just looking for the borough's support there for this particular project.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mark? No? Okay, thank you, Mark. I guess we need a motion?
Yes.
We want to make a motion to accept this resolution right now.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
Can you speak up? And I don't know if that's turned on or not, the
Yeah,
microphone there.
I guess, Mark, I do have a question. So the only thing you're asking is support from the borough.
Yep.
Financially, it costs the borough nothing to have you go through with this grant, correct?
I make a motion, we give it consent for approval.
And I was stuck in it.
You second? Yes. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. Next is the bid for Chestnut Street Phase 3.
Okay, so the first bid is from Glenn Hallbaker. bid is in the amount of $26,544. The next one is from J. Folk Road and Sons Incorporated. Okay, and that amount is $19,883.01. The next bid is from Mid-State Paving. That amount is $28,650. And the last one is from Mike Pleck Paving and Seal Coating. And that amount is $18,900. So I would recommend you awarding the bid to Mike Pleck Paving, contingent upon all paperwork being filed properly.
Have we ever had any issues with their work within the borough?
No, they actually worked with Cedar Cog and us last year. They actually got the phase two, and they did a great job. There's no seams or anything, so.
And I've seen their work in the past, it always looked pretty impressive as well.
So I'll make a motion that we accept the bid for Mike Pleck Paving.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Now we can move on to the consent agenda. Is there anyone that would like anything pulled out of the consent agenda?
I just have a real quick question on an item within, would be item O. I saw on the protected document section on the website that we received the letter of dissolution of this, I believe it's a nonprofit group, from their attorney. Why is that? Why are we receiving that notification? Do we have some type of business with them? Or is it just a nonprofit within the borough, so we're notified?
Yeah, I think it's because we're required to be notified because it's inside the borough.
Okay.
Move we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
I'll second.
Steve got it first. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And next, we're on to our regular agenda. Diana, treasurer is up.
Okay, so I got an email, I received it from PennDOT, Mark Schultz. On Thursday, July 9th, there was a PUC final inspection for the railroad crossing warning device installation project on Depot Street and Chestnut Street. During the final inspection, it was recognized there's a need for railroad advance warning signs and stop bar pavement markings at both locations. We need to install these signs as soon as possible. They're going to be over $100 each, and we are looking at least 4 of them. So I just got that information, and it's mandatory that we do it, but I wanted to update council in regards to it. Any questions on that?
What was the address? for
Not
that
if it's
crossing?
mandatory.
Depot and Chestnut.
Yeah, Depot and
Yeah.
Chestnut, that's actually where they're gonna be doing the,
Are they going to install the signs?
no.
We have to do it,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
Do we need a motion? I mean,
It's under 5,000, but I mean, you're more than welcome to make a motion if you'd like me to. Okay. The next thing is our independent auditors, Young Oaks and Brown, finalized their audit for the year ending of December 31st, 2019. The audit went well, there were no findings. The wastewater treatment plant final report went out to the respective municipalities, Granville and Derry. I included an electronic version of the audit under the council items online. If anyone wants a hard copy, I do have a couple hard copies here, just let me know. Are there any questions on the audit? Okay, the next thing is I received notification from PennDOT that ramp work is going to be done at the Industrial Park interchange, and it actually started today. The contractor, it says, will begin joint sealing and repair on the on-off ramps at the Industrial Park interchange. Traffic entering or exiting Route 22 via this interchange will be shifted onto the shoulders while this work takes place. The traffic shifts will only be in place during daylight hours. The right lane remains closed for a 2.5 mile stretch beyond this interchange. The closure is in effect for the eastbound and the westbound lanes. Motorists are urged to stay alert for workers and for construction vehicles entering or exiting the work area. This is the first of several sections on Route 22 that will see work as part of this project. The entire work zone will stretch from Caldwell Hill Road intersection to the Walnut Street exit on Route 322. The overall work consists of milling, paving, concrete paving, patching, pavement marking, and miscellaneous construction. And Glenn Hallbaker is the contract on the $3.7 million project, which PennDOT anticipates completing by the mid-October. The next thing I have is I also got another information from PennDOT is looking to, there's lots of construction going on. Yeah, PennDOT is looking to alter the public at-grade crossings by the upgrade of the active traffic control devices on Water and Juniata Street. It crosses the track of Cedarcog Joint Rail Authority in the borough. This is to be completed by December 31st of 2021. We don't have a start date yet, but they are to let us know when that is going to start, and they're working with Cedarcog on that. Okay, moving on. I received notice from the county that for our county aid this year, it's going to be in the amount of $7,103.01. I would like to get approval from council to apply for the county aid to use in conjunction with the South Brown Street paving project, where we're utilizing the state liquid fuels money also. So this will help us in coordination, but I do need council's approval to do that.
I'll make a motion that we approve the application for the county aid and the use as Diana has explained.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so I got this in the mail. It's from the Senate of Pennsylvania. Since we have our 225th anniversary, it is just saying, you know, I can read it to you. The Senate of Pennsylvania is always pleased to recognize those esteemed communities which, through the observance of significant events in their history, contribute to preserving the continuity of Pennsylvania's great heritage. And whereas the Borough of Lewistown is celebrating the momentous occasion of 225th anniversary, and whereas located along the north bank of the Juniata River, Lewistown Borough was first settled around 1750 and incorporated in 1795, and it became the county seat of Mifflin County upon its formation in 1789. The county courthouse on Monument Square was constructed in 1843, and a station of the PA Railroad opened 6 years later. After flooding from Tropical Storm Agnes devastated Lewistown Borough in 1972, the Mifflin County Industrial Development Corporation and the Juniata Valley Chamber of Commerce worked to attract 11 new industries to the area and help create nearly 2,000 new jobs. To its great credit, Lewistown Borough was named one of 10 All-American cities in this country by the National Municipal League in 1973 for its economic recovery, improved health services, and economic development initiatives. Throughout its rich history, the borough has been blessed with dedicated civil leaders who have helped it to grow and flourish, as well as diligent and productive citizens who have helped it become an inspiring presence in this Commonwealth. Now, therefore, the Senate of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania heartily congratulates the Borough of Lewistown on the momentous and joyous occasion of its 225th anniversary, offers best wishes for growth and prosperity in the years to come, and directs that a copy of this document, sponsored by Senator Jake Corman, be transmitted to the Borough of Lewistown, 2 East 3rd Street, Lewistown, PA. So,
Can I add a little something to that?
you bet. Go
Okay.
for it. Ma'am.
We tried to set up a celebration on the 1st of April and had to cancel it because of everything going on. Now what we're doing, I didn't want to not have something, so I'm working with the Visitor Center and the Chamber, and we're going to have it as part of the Goose Day celebration. So there'll be like a day set aside, and I think what we're going to do is do the program that I had originally set up is really cool. So that's where we're standing right now. Still in the making, but you know that's what we're thinking about doing. We didn't want to go through the whole year without doing something.
So, if you guys want to pass that around, take a look at that. It's pretty cool. The next thing is the parking study. So, I had emailed this to all the council members, and the recommendations from the steering committee and the study represent. The first one is fixing the inconsistent meters. And I do have actually Scott Brothers working on that. He's been started on that a couple weeks ago. Number 2 is the continued coordination with the steering committee and stakeholders. Number 3 is parking enforcement. That everyone feels that we should have parking enforcement, a more consistent. Then number 4 is like the graduated fines, and you can see on page 34 how it talks about it. Like, so the first parking meter ticket is $5, and then after 7 days, right now, it goes directly to the magistrate if it's unpaid over a week. But they were thinking that what we had done years before is we did like the parking ticket would be $5, and then after so many days it would go to a letter would go out, and they said that in this parking study that it would be increased because you have your administration costs and such to send it out to $25, and then after that it would be turned over to the magistrate. So that's something that, I mean, we can talk about all this, or we can just, do you want to put it to a committee, or how do you want to do it?
I think we just need to talk about it.
Okay.
Streets and.
Oh, talk about committees. You'll see that number 5 was the improved management of existing off-street parking. Then number 6 was to incentivize employees to use the borough parking permit program and improve marketing, improve notification of parking restrictions, and to review all the parking prohibitions with law and ordinance. And the longer term project development needed eventually, if possible, smart meters, improvements to the municipality-owned library parking lot. We are actually talking with the county in regards to that. We did talk a little bit about that at Streets Committee. Other safety improvements, and you'll see improved management of existing on-street parking and long-term off-street space leasing program. So we can forward that to the different committees, and then we can come back with our recommendations if that's what you want to do.
Yep. Okay. Everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron. The next thing I have is I would like to get council's approval to bid out we have 2 open workman positions, and I'd like to bid them out based upon what the union contract stipulates. And I'd like to, if none of them are bid upon, have council's approval to go ahead and advertise it accordingly, and then get people interviewed so we can get some people hired. But I need council's approval to do that.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then the last thing is, last year we had started on doing some of the alleys, repaving some of them. And I have gotten some more information from the street superintendent on doing some more alleys that are in bad shape. And I guess I'm just looking for directive if I need to come to council every time we want to repave an alley. Our guys will be doing it, the work. We would just be paying for the materials, which we've already approved, the MEG manual, so that's already approved by what the materials would cost. I just didn't know if I had to come to council every time we needed to pave some alleys, or if I could just direct the street superintendent to do that accordingly. I know in the past, the borough manager has just discussed it with the street superintendent for just the alley work or any like regular work during the day. It's not something that we would bid out, obviously, that would have to come to council. But I know last year we did talk about, and I got council's approval for the alleys that we were wanting to repave because they were in pretty bad shape. So I'm just wanting a directive from council, if they would, which way they would like me to go.
I think we need to get as many done as we can.
And this is all budgeted items, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
it is budgeted,
Correct.
correct. Yes, and obviously we
I don't have an issue either way, honestly. I still, though, as I had mentioned before, I think that we need to be focusing on primary roadways before we do alleys. And I know that we have been.
Yes, yes, we have,
I
yes.
don't mean that
I don't
specifically.
disagree with that, but some of the alleys are to the point to where you're not getting a car through.
Well,
So
and
as
you
much
know
as
what?
Right.
And people don't drive through those alleys at 40 mile an hour either.
Wow.
They do until they hit the hole.
Well.
Yeah.
Then they call the borough and want them to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't disagree. You shouldn't be flying back through alleys, but some of them are pretty.
I agree,
Yeah.
I
You know,
agree.
provide communication.
Bottom line is, it doesn't sound like you need approval,
Okay.
because we've already approved it,
If they're
so.
budgeted
Yes.
items, I would say at your discretion, have them repaid.
Is that all right with everyone else in council? Bill? Okay, thank you. So that's everything, thank you.
Sure.
I'm sure I'll have some.
Okay. Mr. Bartlett?
Thank you, Madam President.
Liking that microphone,
Right,
aren't
yeah,
you?
there you go.
Okay, for the month of June, fire department responded to 15 calls inside the borough. That consisted of one building fire, brush and grass fire, 6 medical assists, 2 motor vehicle accidents with injuries, a motor vehicle pedestrian accident, natural gas leak, power line down, public service assistance, which once again is a baby locked inside a vehicle. And we responded to reported barbecue fire, which did not amount to anything. Also, as we spoke before, the coronavirus thing really cut down the fire department's fundraising. And I met with the finance committee a week or so ago, and we done a little PowerPoint, put in some requests. But in the fire department's behalf, the 3 stations have scheduled some fundraising. I see there's a couple chicken barbecues back on schedule, some bingo, raffles, and what have you. They are doing their part. Also, Madam President, I received a call from the president of United Fire Company today that he had spoke to you about
He
couple
did, I was
concerns.
gonna bring that up, yep.
Okay.
You got it? You wanna
He
go
has,
ahead?
he has 2 representatives from his station that's
He
familiar
does.
with what he's talking about, so can I give them the floor at this time?
Absolutely. Mr. Markley, senior or junior, I don't care which one wants to go up.
I'm not junior.
Aren't you?
No, this is Sean.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks for hearing from us, it's short notice, and that was short notice for me also. But what we're faced with at United Fire and Rescue right now is our tire ladder, which happens to be the only one left in the burn house. And city's downsized, we're trying to downsize, and hopefully going to be moving and consolidating with Brooklyn, hopefully this year sometime, we don't really know. But at any rate, to get back with the subject at hand here, our tire ladder, 1994 E1, is in bad shape. Okay, it's getting worse every day. It's a major problem with it. Okay, there's no doubt in my mind right now. There's streets, Pine Street comes to mind, North Walnut Street, probably even Ridge Road, that we couldn't get up there. That truck is at the power.
This was a transmission issue,
It's
right?
I don't think it's transmission. I think it's engine, but it's something major anyhow. And we're to the point where, you know, when you're talking engine or transmission, and then you're talking $15,000, $20,000 if it stops at that. And we're at a point where we don't want to continue to throw money into that unit. There's a couple fairly new used rigs on the market that are good prices. We feel are good prices, but we, quite frankly, we need help. We just can't. We at least have to have the council have our back so that we can go out, you know, and purchase something. We need a ladder truck in the town, and you know, I'm just afraid. I'm really concerned that this one's going to leave us sitting someday, in the not too distant future, because it's really getting bad.
And when Brandon called me today, he mentioned that there is a truck, I think it's a 94, and it's $125,000,
Yeah, I can speak. Sean knows.
Thank you.
I'm Sean Markley, by the way, Assistant Chief of the Lewistown Fire Department, for those of you who don't know me. The 90, it's questioners, it's either 94 or 95, but it was totally refurbished in 2012. The downfall of that is the bank doesn't see it as a 2012, it still sees it as a 1994 or 1995, whatever it is, which affects the length of the loan. They don't, you know, over that old, they only want to look at, say, a 6-year loan, so you're jacking the payments up. But members from the station went several months ago and looked at the rig. The price they were asking for at that time was more than that, so we kind of backed away from it. But with what's going on now with the current ladder truck, like my father said, you're probably talking $10,000 or $15,000 it would cost to fix it, and it's probably not worth much more than $10,000 or $15,000, to be quite honest with you. So to put that kind of money into a rig like that is just, I think it's foolish. But basically, like he said, we're just looking for certain for the borough's backing behind it, and hopefully, as the chief has already addressed with the finance committee, eventually, you know, an increase in funding. But like I said, for certain, the borough's backing will be the biggest thing for now.
Sean, do you know if he heard, I know he was supposed to reach out to JBB, and I don't know if Brandon heard back from them
He did not hear back from them. He was hoping to hear something back within the next couple of days.
Okay.
Because it's something that the company would like to act on at a meeting Thursday night. Their company meeting is this Thursday. And then, like I said, it's, as my dad said, it's to that point where something needs to happen now. It's really...
What is like the cost of, what do they run?
You mean new?
Anything.
A new ladder truck right now.
Okay.
They used to have about $125,000.
This one's used, and we can pick it. We can get it for $125,000.
Okay.
I said a new one, 1.2, 1.4, anywhere. You know, you're looking at least $1 million for something new.
How long do you think this truck would be serviceable for our area? If you were you the one that looked at it, Sean?
I did not go look at it. Going off the report from the guys that did go look at it, they couldn't find anything wrong with it. They climbed, you know, they were all over it, under it, everything. I would say, I hate to use the term Band-Aid, but it would technically be a Band-Aid because, like I said, it is still an older truck, although it had an extensive amount of work to it. But I would feel safe to say 10 years anyhow. You know, if you want to go longer than that, then you're going to look at spending a lot more money.
No, I understand.
What's the problem with running Highland Park on our calls?
Are you familiar with Highland Park's response time?
Well, I understand it's pretty good.
You're understanding wrong. No. No, Highland Park's response times are terrible. Especially to get them the whole way across to the other end of the borough.
Actually, the ISO, which is the insurance rating company, does require, and it's in the consultant's report, that we have to have one ladder truck per road.
Yeah, and I think they actually recommended two.
Well,
correct?
it was two, then they dropped it to one because we had other ones close by.
Okay.
Do you know if they looked at any grants or anything?
Unfortunately, I don't really believe there's a lot of grants available for used fire apparatus.
Right.
And to write a grant for new ones, you're looking at, I believe, anywhere from 10 to 20% down to match. And when you're talking $100,000 to $200,000 plus, that money's not available. Plus paying somebody to write the grant. Now is a 94. Yes. Yes, but like as I explained, the other one was totally refurbished basically from the ground up. But unfortunately, when they do that, they don't retype one. So it's still a 94. However, it's basically a 2012. Where this one's a 94, and it's had work done to it, but nothing that expensive.
I was just asking what we've traditionally done to assist with vehicle purchases or what have you.
So what we've done in the past, like when city needed that other vehicle when they were gonna purchase, if you remember, Bob, they actually came to the borough and we wrote a resolution stating that although we wouldn't be financially responsible for it, we will support it. And it actually went to Kish Bank. So it had, it showed a little bit of
Right, I understand that. We've been through that before,
yes.
so I fully understand that.
But you
Like I
need
said-
more than support right now, correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Well, I mean,
Or we don't know.
we don't know. Depends on how well fundraising goes from now on. I can tell you, United is better off financially now than what they were a couple years ago, for sure. Can we make the payments on it? We're hoping, but like I said, for now the support is huge. They don't want to buy anything without having the borough support.
Right.
And to consider an increase in funding in the future would be huge. I mean, obviously we know that there's not money in the budget for it this year, but if there could be money put in the budget in the future, that would be,
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
food for thought. The PowerPoint and the request I put in at the Finance Committee meeting,
Uh-huh.
when I put that in, we allowed money in there for vehicle payments, truck payments. If that goes through, if the Finance Committee recommends that, that would about cover the truck payments for what they need to replace it.
would help. Yeah. So anything helps at this point. I mean, you're all aware of the financial situation of the fire department, so I don't have to really address that too much there.
Right.
Any questions?
So at this point tonight, you're asking for verbal, well, it would be written by resolution support.
That's definitely, that's a step in the right direction, yes. That's what, that's pretty much all we can get tonight would be that. Like I said.
Hope for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have no issue with that at all. In fact, I would definitely support it and promote everybody else supporting it. Again, back to the consolidation, John Senf's report, we are required, to provide. Well, the borough is required to maintain, certain pieces of apparatus, and this is definitely one of them. And if this is our only one, then yeah, we have a problem.
Agreed.
I agree with Dave.
But it is something that we also need to address in the finance committee and not just,
Right, yes. Like
Yeah,
the-
so,
the
I mean-
support for now is definitely what we're looking for, but, you know, an increase in the finances in the future is something else that we're looking for.
I would be very curious to see, or to hear, I guess, what Brandon learns from JVB.
Okay, well, I can
And
tell
what
him
their
that-
position is.
I can
on
tell him to call you as soon as he
anyone.
finds out if you'd like.
I'm sure I think he's already
He
planning
probably
on
will,
doing
yes.
that.
Okay. Yes, he was hoping to hear back
I know
also
he
by
was.
Thursday, you know, at the latest. Like I said, because this is something that needs addressed.
Yeah, I mean, we need
Now.
one, so we gotta figure out how we're gonna get it.
Well, at this point in time, I mean, I would definitely make a motion that we, you know, create this resolution of support, much like I believe we did for the city with their purchase, as I remember correctly.
No, I don't
And
know,
I'll second that.
Hold on, discussion, Mark?
I don't know if I ever heard any numbers of what we saved with the consolidation plan that we have in place with United joining the Brooklyn. Has there been numbers on, you know, what the potential saving is? with
We don't
that?
save anything as a borough.
I'm talking the fire department, they'd be consolidating some resources, there savings there, I mean, I'm
Yes,
really the.
yes.
Looking at,
Yeah.
looking right off the bat, downsizing two pieces of apparatus, and which is, you know, that's a significant chunk of change. Not to mention the fact that eventually, if or when it happens, you would be one set of bills instead of two, so.
Right. One
I
building.
mean, and you guys have the paperwork from United, you know exactly what they pay in a year, so.
I forget what it was, 55,000, something like that? What
But
they
even
pay.
that, Mark, it's still going
Oh.
to require one ladder truck, one engine rescue,
Yeah.
and 2 engines.
Right, my question wasn't on apparatus, you need what you need for the borough, I understood that. I was just curious, since we're on the subject matter, I just never really seen.
Yeah,
We'd have to pull
whatever the bills would be,
financials out.
you know, whatever the finances are for United in a year's time. And like I said, you guys have that somewhere.
Yeah, and I've seen it. So we would save the cost of whatever it is for United up here, because I think the plan is for you guys to go to the Brooklyn. correct?
Eventually, that's the plan,
That's the
yes.
plan, yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Whether it be a consolidation or just a merger of the two companies under one building, that's all still, you
Right.
know,
up in the air.
it's up in the air. You know, they're headed in the right direction, but it's
Yeah.
still, you know, it's something that
Yeah, we
doesn't
were at-
happen overnight, especially with the bar. You know, that's
Right, yeah.
that's the biggest holdup.
That's the holdup right now. We were actually hoping we were already going to be down there.
Right, well, and then you had everything else happen,
Yeah, the COVID didn't
so
help and all the other stuff.
everything shut
Yeah.
down and
Yeah, that's right.
nobody's working.
So I guess that brings me to my next question, what's the bar holdup? I guess I just don't understand enough
Well,
about.
because you want to be two separate organizations,
Yes.
not one.
Does United currently have like its own,
No,
Negative.
so
they
it,
do not have a.
No,
system.
and that was the reasoning for the Fane leaving the place on 108 Valley Street and consolidating with the Henderson 26 years ago, was to get out from underneath the bar because they didn't want that liability.
that's it.
So United's not going to leave there and go down and be part of a bar.
But am I understanding correctly that that's a good source of revenue for the fire department stuff?
It can be.
It can be or it can't be. It's
Yeah.
all on how they
Can
treat
be
you.
a
I don't think
It's
the bar
Isn't
in
it
Brooklyn
separate?
has ever been a good
Not
source
yet.
of revenue for the fire
Into
company.
Brooklyn,
down
isn't
there.
it
You know,
separate?
Not
I
yet.
think the city does okay.
Not yet.
The
Oh, I
Fane
always thought
Department
it was.
treated the downstairs pretty well. I know Yagertown right now does phenomenal work for their fire department, but you know, they have a really, really good bar business out there. I don't think they have it down in Brooklyn.
I don't think so either.
Brooklyn was working on getting everything separated. You gotta get the utilities separated and everything else. And well, the coronavirus didn't help when they lost their,
Right.
ability to run bingo, which is their big money maker. They didn't have the money to pay lawyers and, everything that's needed to get the separation done. So that's a holdup. They are working on it, but it's just a matter of finances. Because they have a ring payment to make down there too, so.
Right. Okay, so
Thank you.
any
Thank
other
you.
discussion? Because we do have a motion on the table to go ahead and write and pass the resolution.
And I think Aaron seconded.
Yes, he did, yes.
Yes, the
Okay, Okay, all those in favor of supporting through a resolution United effort to get a ladder truck, say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
No. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, boss.
Well, just see her about getting that resolution.
Okay, all right, thank you. Brandon will be in touch.
Okay.
Real quick, Venus, if I may, say something to the chief, if that's okay.
I don't know. Chief,
Yes.
go ahead.
I do want to express my extreme condolences and my thoughts and prayers to City Hook and Ladder for the recent passing of Harry Pat Conford, who was not only a World War II veteran with the Battle of the Bulge, but also an impeccable 60 years of dedication. I don't know anybody's will ever surpass that. I know from what I was told, Harry was a good man and he would do anything for his community. His legacy will continue to live on through City Hook and Ladder, and I hope you accept my condolences and my thoughts and prayers.
Well, thank you very much. On that note, Harry was a 66-year member of the City Hook and Ladder, held about every office in that place. When I joined there way back in 1974, he's the guy that took me out in driver's training. I now own the fire truck that he took me out in driver's training on, so I'm hauling him to his graveyard tomorrow. He gave him the first ride, I'm gonna give him his last ride.
Thank you, Aaron.
Well, again, you're welcome.
Bob, do you have anything else?
I'm done.
Okay, Mayor,
I'm supposed to talk after that?
you are. Sorry.
Yeah, I liked Harry too. He used to stop in my office every time we come in the building. So. Okay, first thing, I have my second quarter weddings. It's a slow quarter because of the COVID, I'm sure. I'm making up for it now.
Madam President, if I may use the restroom.
Sure, knock yourself, well, don't knock yourself out, but. You want
Okay. I'll wait for him to come out. A couple weeks ago, I received a call from a gentleman that was raised in Lewistown, and he's now a soccer coach at a university down near DC. And he asked if he could meet with the chief and I to talk about the different procedures that if we were to have issues like a lot of the other towns and cities are, you know, what would be our procedure, what equipment we had, what equipment we're lacking, and we had a very, very nice conversation with him. He did a phenomenal job counting, you know, the way that the department is run. And we got to talking about the fact of body cameras. And this is something that him and I have talked about for quite a while. And the gentleman that met with us said he'd be more than happy, even though he's down there and we're up here, that he would do everything he could to maybe get something going as far as raising some money for it. Well, it was like one day last week, we get a call at the station from a local church. It's the Mifflin County Community Church. And Becca took the call, and they too were asking, you know, we would like to do something for the department, you know, is there anything that we could do, or anything they need, and that sort of thing. So Becca went on to tell them that we were looking at some fundraising of some sort to buy body cameras for the officers. And so Becca had this nice conversation with them, and they hang up. And 2 days later, we got a letter along with a check for $3,000 towards body cameras. It specifies right on the check that's what it's supposed to be for. So I met with Diana, and I didn't know if, an escrow account would be good, because we'd like to, try to, have more money either donated or see what we can do to come to an amount that we could purchase cameras for each officer. So she had mentioned something about putting it in as a line item, and anytime any kind of a contribution would come in, it would go on that line item. So this was, above and beyond what we had expected, and we're so appreciative of it. The chief wrote a nice thank you letter, we sent it out immediately, and it just goes to show you, people care. We have seen evidence of that many, many times in this community, and I'm so thankful for the Mifflin County Community Church. It's just a wonderful gift. We're hoping to sometime, we know what the situation is and what the police officers face, and we're hoping it doesn't happen here, and they're busy enough. Believe me, and what they see is unbelievable. But it would be nice to have that piece of equipment for the officers. And I know that they are really wanting them also.
And body cams, I think, are terrific to have. That protects the police officer as much as the citizen, so.
Would it affect our insurance rates?
Would actually, yeah, we would have to talk with our company, but a lot of insurance companies will give a discount
That's
for
what I
that
thought.
because it's, more
What do they run a piece?
It varies depending on the brand, probably around $1,500 a piece. So we've gotten estimates before when we were looking at them, and we had estimates anywhere from $10,000 up to $40,000 depending on the system you get, the software and different features. But so it's somewhere in that range. The minimum is probably $10,000 for our department.
Because you're looking at roughly 10 cameras, correct?
Right.
Yeah, it depends on the system you get. Some systems, each officer has to have their own camera. There are systems where they can share cameras, and they just have a code that they punch in when they download or upload, the video. But yeah, it depends on the system. But
Those are all things to keep in mind for budget season coming up.
Yeah, really.
I just actually had a visit from Scott Mowry, Mifflin County Regional, and this week also, just a coincidence that we had that at about the same time, but he's hoping to get all the local departments on board, as well as the county, to purchase cameras for all the local departments. So we'll be discussing that more. But
We're looking at possibly, maybe looking at grants,
Right.
Like he said, consolidating, having, all the departments,
Maybe a
Hop
better
on board
bulk
one
price.
grant.
Yeah, definitely, and it speaks highly when you go to apply for a grant if you have like a group that are,
All that, maybe you
Yeah.
get a discount at, when you buy in bulk.
yeah, that's true, that's true.
Okay, good news.
Yeah, great news.
Thank you.
We were ecstatic, so.
Yeah. Very much appreciate it, and like you said, we did send them a thank you letter, but just want to, publicly say that we very much appreciate it, and something we're looking forward to for the officers. So.
Yes,
We have many good people in our community.
we certainly do.
Is that it, Mayor?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, Dave. Mr. Clemens.
Our stats for June, 456 calls for service, 15 traffic citations, and 13 non-traffic. Just discussed the body cameras, I guess. And our civil service test is coming up on the 25th. Right now, we have at least 12 applicants who will be taking the test. That's at the high school on the 25th. The application period is closed now, so.
How many did you say? I'm sorry, Chief.
12.
12, thank you.
Yeah, 12 qualified applicants that can actually test. So we'll see how many show up. We'll be looking to fill that one open officer position probably at sometime after school resumes and our SRO goes back to school.
Do we know anything about the school district yet? Have they made a decision?
No.
I think Thursday is their meeting.
Oh, really?
That's when I would anticipate, but. You have anything else, Chief?
That's all I have for now.
I got,
Do you have those logs that you can forward to us?
I have it in the form of a report. I'll have to redact it from this report because there's information in there that I can't share with everybody.
Okay.
But we'll have to redact it out and just give you the times and dates and that information. But I brought the actual report along and it has
Okay.
like PennDOT information and stuff like that that I cannot disseminate to everybody.
the council?
To anybody?
I can't disseminate that information to anybody from a report.
I guess my next question is there any point that the police station gets a call that we were not able to respond to in the last, let's say, 3 months?
Not that I'm aware of.
Calls will come from 911.
Pardon me?
Calls will come from the 911 center.
Yeah, they don't go into the police station.
But my question is, I mean,
That we were not able to respond to.
or even when.
Sometimes there's a delayed response depending on if the officers are tied up on other calls. I mean, sometimes there's a delay, but usually not, if they don't respond at all.
That's what I mean, I guess that's more my question. The last 3 months, has there been a time that our local police weren't able to respond locally to a call?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I mean, we handle every call. Like I said, there may be a delay sometimes.
And if it's something-
Prioritize the calls. I mean, you know, obviously
Right.
if domestic or something like that comes before a parking complaint or,
Yeah.
you know.
That
So
or-
we prioritize.
Yeah. That or we call for some work from another department. You know, if our guys are tied up in something serious.
Any other questions, Mark? Okay. Anything else, Chief?
Oh, no.
Okay. Rec board meeting, Diana?
So they discussed briefly, we did have teleconference. Roberta Root was hired for the community center. She's actually coming in tomorrow. She did her drug testing and stuff today. We had gotten council's approval prior to, and they did discuss that at the rec board meeting. Mary Ann Haynes, she also started since the pool was open July the 2nd. And it was kind of just an informational meeting for them. I did get a pool newsletter. I just got it today from Mary Ann Haynes. She had a couple of things she wanted to see about doing, and it really should go through council. So one of them was she would like to do a splash hop on Wednesday, July the 29th, from 7 to 10. Admission would be $5. All patrons must pay. It's not included with the membership. She would like to have a DJ, and the fee for the evening would be $100. Date is subject to change based on DJ's availability, but we would need council's approval to do that and spend that.
Is
Council.
there an age? Is there an age restriction?
Do you want to go, Mayor? I'll go with you.
Yeah, I wanna go.
I'll go with you.
I haven't been to a splash shop for a long time.
Well played.
Were there
Yeah,
other
I
items?
scared the kid.
Yeah,
Hey.
I was going to, unless you want me to go down there. Mayor.
It's okay. What do you mean? Do you have a list of
Yeah,
monetary
there's a couple,
items?
yes, there's a couple
Well,
other
then let's
items.
gather them all up and talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is movie night. They want to have a movie night August the 5th. Admission, she's looking to charge $5. Again, it's not included in the membership. She said Matt Moore has agreed to set up the movie screen and projector, but she doesn't know what the fee is going to be on that yet.
They had one of them before.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
had
they
a
did.
couple.
It
Yeah.
was great.
Yep. And then swim lessons, she's looking for July the 20th to the 24th and July 27th to the 31st. Information was gonna be sent out to the media, council's approval. The cost will be $40 per week session. Members are still required to pay for swim lessons. And the last item is Mifflin County Middle School has asked for 10 free passes, which I didn't realize they did this in the past. But again, this stuff should go through council because under our cost and fee schedule, we don't have it documented. But they are asking for 10 free passes for the next pool season for next year. So the program really encourages and reinforces positive behavior. It's for the PBIS program. I'm not sure, do you know more what that is, Mark?
Positive behavior interventions and supports.
All right, thank you, Stephen. So she was asking and requesting if we could give 10 free passes. So that would be $4 a piece, so that would be worth $40. And she also said, you know, when we consider if we're going to allow that, when the free passes are given out, it's unlikely that the child is coming to the pool alone. So those were her questions, and based upon council's approval. I have one other item, but it will be discussed in executive session.
So we have a splash off. What day did you say?
Wednesday, the 29th of July, from 7 to 10.
With a $5 admission.
Yep.
A movie night on
And
8/5.
And a DJ for the $100.
And a DJ.
Movie
Sorry.
night, August the 5th, admission would be $5. Swim lessons, taking
Swim
place.
lessons.
What?
Swim lessons.
Right, that's,
I said that.
yeah. July 20th
How's
to
your
the
hearing? How's your hearing?
Oh, is that a comment you made?
20th to the 24th, and July 27th to the 31st. She's looking at charging $40. That's what they charged last year. We have to do more of an analysis on if it, you know, how much the benefits and, you know, if it's cost effective and if we need to increase it. But obviously that would be something we could look at next year. And then the free passes, 10.
I just personally feel that the Lewistown Rec Park is something that the Lewistown Borough offers to this community, and I think it's a big deal. And I think with events like this, and with a pool manager that's willing to create something, get something going, I mean, if we can at least next year come even to what we pay down there, I think these ideas are great ideas, and
I think it's
I
been
just
more
feel
crowded this year than.
It's been patronized pretty decently, I think, since it's been opened, and I think generating some interest like that, and I think the free pass is a great idea because that child won't be going down there alone. If next year we can actually take over the concession again, I think we can turn that around.
Yeah, we could talk about that, but.
You know, a couple of things, just to echo what you had said, that was one of the things that I really pushed for with a new pool manager, somebody that's outgoing and event-minded to bring people in. So I'm definitely all for, you know, the events. The 10 free passes, in theory, I think it's a good thing, but in practice, I don't see how we could do it for them when we don't do it for anybody else. And as far as the dates of, you know, July 29th, I don't understand why we would do something until 10 o'clock at night on a Wednesday night.
I
would
think
it'd be
kids
better
aren't going to school.
I
Yeah,
think
but you
her-
have parents that work in that. I think it would be better suited for a Friday night.
Well, I think her thought process was to bring more revenue in on Wednesday night because it's slower. And that's why she was trying, if she does a splash top, that she would get more revenue in.
See,
That's what her thought process was.
I think
I don't know,
it
I'm
would be
just.
better
you know.
attended on Friday night. I understand that, but I think that the loss from it being in the middle of a week would outweigh the gain. Because
Don't know
would
until you
gain-
try any of it,
I would
so.
think you would gain more, doing it on a Friday evening.
I don't know. Those are the 4 things.
Well, there's no further discussion. I'll make a motion to approve those items for the Lewistown Rec Park.
I will second.
Okay, now we can have more discussion if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd love to vote yes for it, but I can't support giving away 10 pool passes when we don't do it for anybody else.
Who else
I mean,
is that?
if Mifflin County School District believes
yes.
in this program, then, I mean, I would think that they would buy the passes.
Well, I understand where you're coming from because of even when I paid for the parking meters so that we could hand out free bags for the free lunches. You know, so you know what I mean. So I'm where you're at. I would offer to pay for it. It's only $40, so I would be willing to pay for that for the 10 free passes.
That's,
So we can
That's
take that off the table.
Yeah, we can take that off the table. So now we have the other three.
I still have an issue with that being on a Wednesday night. I mean, I could see my kids, in my own household, I could see my kids really wanting to go to this, but we're not going to because, Danielle has to be up at 4 in the morning and myself, 4:45.
I'll take your kids with my kids and supervise them all.
Okay.
Ultimately, do we want to hire a pool manager to run the pool, or do we want to hire a pool manager and then tell them how to run the pool, is the question. So if we're hiring a pool manager to run the pool, let's give her a shot at running the pool.
Exactly.
Okay, so, that's the end of discussion? So we took the free passes off, so you only have the three things to vote on.
Well, let's vote.
Let's vote. All those in favor of the splash off, the movie night, and swim lessons, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Let's see. I lost where we were. Mr. Remy, it's your turn.
Thank you. The first item is the ongoing issue with the property by the river. At council's direction, I had sent a letter to Mr. Sellers and Mr. Dobozinski advising them that the borough thought that we own the property, they should cease and desist trespassing. I gave everybody a copy of what I received back from their attorney. Essentially, they say they think they own everything, and they don't think the borough owns anything, and they would like a deed from the borough. So, I think we are really at a point where if we're going to take this matter forward, the boundary lines and who owns what has to be established. That would require a survey. I mean, we could ask Mr. Sellers and Dobozinski if they want to split a survey, and we'll all just pick a surveyor and abide by what he says, or we could get our own survey and take it from there.
How much is the survey? What do we?
Lucas
Lucas.
not.
Yeah, we had Rex get a quote.
Yeah.
And I can't remember.
It was like $6,000.
Like way high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't advocate for spending $6,000 on.
Well, then, I understand that, and I don't disagree with that, but again, then where do we go? Because now we have started this.
Exactly. So do you want to ask, do you even want to spend $3,000 on a survey? I don't think that our financial situation at this point, in light of everything that's occurred in the last 5 months, says that we spend $3,000 on a survey, Maybe we pull Mr. Sellers in and talk with him.
Well, I just feel like at this point, talking to them still doesn't separate the boundaries, That ground either belongs to them or belongs to the borough. And my biggest concern all along is liability. $6,000 seems like a lot. Let somebody get hurt on the property and see what it costs us.
And his response to that issue is contained in the letter is give it to us, and then you don't have to worry about liability.
Right, so we could just give it
Or
to
just give it to me too.
Right. So,
if you want to own it. If we have it done, if you have a survey done, and it turns out to be ours, then if he wants to run a campground down there, and even pay the borough to run a campground down there on it.
Oh, I don't disagree with what you're saying, Larry, at all, and I understand that. The only crawl I have is the $6,000, and knowing that, we have other issues within the borough, but.
I understand that, but.
It's a
You
tough
didn't
call.
hesitate to spend an extra $2,000 on a police car when that was due, but, you got something you started here and then you want to leave it go.
Oh,
do we get well, I mean, does the borough get collect tax for that property?
Well, I mean, part of it's assessed to the borough, so that's
Right.
exempt, there's no taxes there. The parcel owned by Sellers and Dobozinski, it's assessed as 6.7 acres. The assessed value is 1,650, so you're going to get minimal taxes.
Yeah, you hardly get anything off of that.
So what they're saying the acreage is down there? Over 6 acres?
They're saying, right, they think they own 6, we think we own 12.42.
And that includes his 6.
I guess
So
so.
6 and 6,
To
right?
be determined, right.
Right. So if we would say, let's split it, and he would agree to that, we would just agree with whatever the surveyor.
We could do that, I mean,
Well, I think we get estimates from other surveyors, I mean, also, if we go that route, I mean, $6,000 is an awful lot of money to survey that
Piece
area,
of property.
I believe.
well, how about handling it this way? Send back letters, say, would they be able to consider that as a position? Listen, we'll jointly choose a surveyor, split the cost, and we'll agree to live by their decision, exchange whatever deeds are needed, and move on.
Well, Mark, what side is there more documentation supported?
I mean, we have a old PennDOT map from when they put the parallel in.
Right.
They have a tax map, an old tax map that, isn't, neither one of them is a good indication of boundary lines. The titles are weird, they come through tax sales and things like that. I mean, I think the history is no one really cares too much about this land. So there isn't great land records about them. I would imagine the PennDOT documents that Lucas got are probably fairly accurate.
I would kind of think.
But I mean, they're also
I guess
not
what
a survey, even if they're nothing we can rely on.
Well, I guess what I was getting at, if there's more documentation supporting the borough's case, I mean, couldn't we kind of quote unquote play hardball in the matter and say, then hire a surveyor and prove your case?
Well, they could say the same thing.
Yeah,
But ultimately, we kind of have the upper hand, I would think, and could move forward.
But they're down there doing what they're doing, and
Right.
we want them maybe not to, so really we don't have much of an upper hand, I don't think.
I don't think so. What do you guys want to do?
I think we at least have to get a few estimates for a surveyor. I mean, like Larry said, I mean, we can't just kind of walk away now, but again, I obviously understand the latter.
I need a motion to do that if that's what you so choose to do.
I'll make a motion.
Of what exactly?
I'll second.
Get prices from one surveyors.
So just at this point, just getting estimates to survey multiple.
Yeah, if that's all you want to do. I mean, that's not going to resolve the situation, but
that's why I'm asking you.
Me personally, I prefer to get a survey. But it's pretty obvious that most of the council, I don't think, wants to.
Well, you make a motion to take a vote, Larry.
Okay,
You want to take the intermediate step and see if they'd split it first?
Yeah,
or just get it surveyed?
Well, we could try that. I mean, whatever you want to do.
I mean, I could stand to support getting estimates. Maybe we go with the lowest estimate and then seeking them to split it with us.
Well, I mean, what I can do, they asked for a response, and our response can be, we're getting requests for proposals from surveyors, we'll be in touch further.
Right.
You make whatever motion you want, Larry.
I'm no lawyer. Mark ought to know what's best, but do you think that's the best way to?
I mean, we're really kind of at a standstill. If we don't have a survey, then, I mean, we're just basically like two guys standing over a fence arguing whether it's in the right spot.
Yeah.
You know? Neither of us really knows, we just have our opinions, so.
So, splitting the surveyor would be neutral. He would just mark out the
Right.
lines and we go.
Yeah, we
with
would
that.
just, right, we would, people do this all the time when they have boundary disputes. They say, listen, we're just gonna hire a surveyor and agree to exchange deeds to make the line right.
Well, like I say, I mean, if they deem that it's his property, then we can have him pay the borough so much for running a campground.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the permitting issues and things like that would be with regard to running a
Well,
campground.
I think we covered that with the boarding house ordinance, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, we could look into that too.
I think we're gonna have to look at too, there's open fire down there,
Yeah.
and that's against,
Yeah, that's in the borough, that's an
Borough
ordinance.
yeah.
Well, there's no point having a campsite with no fire.
Yeah.
Or you can have one, you just have to have it covered, right?
Yeah. But I've seen them, they're open fires.
Okay, what's the motion?
Did you rescind your original motion, Larry?
Yeah.
He did.
I make a motion, we do what Mark says. Well, and
Which time?
and send a letter back to them that we're getting, and we're gonna have to get prices
Yeah,
Right.
that would be the.
for a surveyor.
So I will second.
But I'll include in on that we take the best price. Whether they go along with it or whether they don't.
Okay. They're professional services, so, you know, you don't have, it's not one of the things where you have to bid, but.
Right.
As
I understand
you
what
did
you're
as
saying.
an attorney.
You go along with that?
Yeah, I'll go along with trying to get the lowest bid and seeing if they'd be willing to let them come in and survey, and we
Take whatever the
take
answer
whatever
is.
the surveyors come up with.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? No.
I have one other thing, I forgot to tell Diana about this, but we advertised our ordinance for the crosswalk at Sheets. If you recall, PennDOT put in signs and we said we would enact an ordinance. It's been advertised and posted for tonight, so, it's, you know, ready to be voted on if you want to. It's very kind of like short and sweet, it just, provides that there's no unlawful for any pedestrian to cross the roadway in any of the following portions of the streets of the borough, except in the crosswalk between North Juniata Street, between West 3rd Street and West 4th Street. So this is, like I said, it's ready for consideration. If you would like to vote on it tonight,
Would anyone like to see it?
I can pass it around if anybody wants to take a look.
I saw it
Anybody
prior.
else?
Huh?
I saw it prior.
Okay, just making sure.
I'll
Larry?
make a motion
Not
that we
super
approve.
hey. Hey, you
Okay.
want it, Bill? You want to see it?
Okay, just making sure.
Anybody want to see it?
I'll make a motion we approve the ordinance. We pass the ordinance.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All yours. Is that it, Mark?
No, that's it till executive session. I have a couple issues.
Okay. Okay, next we have unfinished and new business. CDGP funds, Diana?
So we received an approval to release the 2017 CDBG funds for the ADA ramp project for South Brown Street. in the amount of, it's for the advertisement of $456.12. We would need council's approval.
So moved. We have to at this point.
Second.
All those in favor say, or any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Next, okay.
We have to, the county opened bids for the South Brown Street project for the ADA ramps. And the bids came out as solid state masonry with the lowest bid at $31,700. Mid-State Paving was at $61,000 and Hall Baker's was at $80,851. They're looking for council's approval to award the bid to Solid State Masonry and to authorize the county to execute the agreements so that they can start on the project.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yours. Okay. Okay, we're looking at item C to list the suspension of parking ticket enforcement. We talked back, what was it, March, Venus?
Yes.
Where we had suspended it initially for the,
Emergency declaration.
yeah, for
Yes.
the street
Street
sweepers.
sweeper.
Yep.
Make a motion that we lift the suspension of parking ticket enforcement in the borough.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
Back to when?
Effective immediately?
Today?
Well, that's kind of not fair to.
How about Sunday? It starts
Well,
in
if you
the
get it in the paper and get it advertised on the radio, beginning next week.
Send out a news release.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, somebody gets a parking ticket tonight and they, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
We
Right.
decided
Yeah.
in
We
meeting,
gotcha.
that's
We gotcha.
not too cool.
Yep. Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah. Did we vote on that?
You have,
Let's make it Monday, because my sweeper night's Sunday.
Sunday. Good thought, though.
yeah, we have a motion in a second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Is he handling this stuff? Okay, Mr. Aaron, we're up to you. For streets.
What is on the agenda, because I did not get a copy of it.
Oh, yeah, you did send it out.
Yeah. The first one is discussion for approval of contacting PennDOT to request decreasing the speed limit on the 500 and 600 block of East Walnut Street. So we got a phone call from Keith Marks at 525 East Walnut Street. The Streets Committee discussed from the Borough line to the red light at the 500 and 600 block. He's requesting to decrease the speed limit down from 35 to 25. He says that people are still jake braking even though there are signs that the state that no brake retarders are allowed to be used within the borough limits. This is a PennDOT road. However, the borough would have to put a request into PennDOT and then they would time study if it would warrant it.
I personally don't think we ought to even get involved in that. I mean, the signs are up there, they're not supposed to use those brake retarders, and lowering the speed limit isn't gonna change them using their brakes. They're gonna use those jake brakes. You know, if they use them with the signs there, the speed limit sign ain't gonna make a difference. And to change the street all of a sudden for one block to a different speed,
Right.
you know, it doesn't make sense
And
to
I
me.
stick to what's my original defense. 9 times out of 10, signs, if they're already posted signs, they're not abiding by them. New signs generally don't change
Right.
behavior.
Really? What if they were flashing?
But still
Well,
doesn't
it's
seem to make
enforcing
a
the signs over there.
Right,
Correct.
right.
That's what makes it change.
Correct.
You can cite them, can't you, chief, if
Yeah,
you,
they can be
oh,
cited, yeah.
okay.
You'd have to hear it though, right?
Yeah, we have to sit there and hear it. You can cite for it though.
Okay.
I did put a thing out to the officers, but we did get a call, I think the mayor got a call from him as well.
Okay.
And I did put a thing out for the officers to patrol that area for that. Something
Right.
that's difficult to enforce, but it can be enforced.
Do you have anything to say on that, Aaron?
Yes, might as well.
Okay, number 2, approval of moving the one-way sign to allow people to go in and out of the parking lot, the alley by the library. This would be a temporary, the county is getting ready to work on the annex building. And in order to get things in and out of there, they want to be able to rent the spot across the way from Bob Thayer's office there. And they want to allow people to, from the courthouse, to park there. So they'd have to go the one way in the back of the in the back of the library, right into that parking lot is what they're talking about, if everybody's familiar with where I'm at. So it would be removing the one-way sign directly behind the library to allow people to go in and out of there during this project.
We could also move the one-way sign back further, you know.
Right.
Because, you know, that's what, Ben and I actually looked at it, and we didn't think it'd be a problem if council would approve it.
Yeah, if this is a temporary thing, I mean, are we talking about undoing 2 bolts?
That's
To
my
put the sign
understanding.
down?
Yeah,
That'd be very
yeah.
simple
It's
to
not
do.
a permanent, it's just while this is being completed.
And we would move it back just past the entrance to the parking lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you're moving a sign, that's different than just undoing 2 bolts. I mean, that's putting in a post and moving the sign.
Well, I think, couldn't you just take the sign and the post and move it?
He's talking about it would be work. It's not, it's more than just 10 minutes of undoing bolts. It's
Right.
a half hour because you're gonna jam it down into the ground, right?
But it
Yeah.
shouldn't take them that long to do it, I wouldn't think.
And are you talking about that then being a permanent solution now?
No,
or
no.
are we
No,
still
it's
just
temporary?
still
tempor-
always
just
just
temp-
temporary.
Is this going to go past the playground?
No,
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's before.
yeah, it's right there on the corner
Okay.
where Jake Corman's office is.
Okay.
So I guess do we need
You need a
a
motion.
motion?
Yeah, we don't have a motion yet.
So moved.
I'll second.
So, all those in favor, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, Diana, can you talk about that one? 'Cause
Sure. I talked to the streets committee on the South Brown Street project. We're gonna have funds left over from the Kish Street multimodal project, and Manor Drive is in pretty bad shape. So they had talked about this prior with the engineer, just doing that street also. There are no sidewalks there. I double checked with Rex, that would need to be updated. We would obviously have to work it in conjunction with school starting, if school's going to start. We would just need council's approval to include it within the bid package. And then next month, we would be opening the bids for that.
You said we had the funds left over from somewhere else?
From the
Yeah.
multimodal project, yeah.
All right, I move we include Manor Drive in the South Brown Street bid documents.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next, we had approval for a handicap space at 612 South Grand Street. And this person has a placard.
Keith Hooks There's none on the block.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay. Another one for 24 West 4th Street.
That's Pamela Kendall. She has COPD, lung disease. She does have a placard. There are two directly across the street. However, we did check it out today. The street superintendent contacted me and he said they are being utilized, both of them.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then we have a request to remove a handicap parking space from 137 Chestnut Street.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mr. Campbell.
So we are seeking approval, Mr. Remy, we are just going to advertise at this point, or will we come into council for discussion as a whole?
This is just kind of discuss this and see if council wants to move ahead with advertising changes to the sewer and sewage disposal ordinance. This came about out of law and ordinance because some individuals had been putting prohibited materials in the sewer system, which damaged the system, which resulted in money being spent by the borough in terms of labor and materials to remedy the situation. Currently, a person can be fined for doing these things, but the purpose of this change is to make sure that the borough has the right to seek damages against people who discharge illegal materials and thereby damage the sanitary sewer system.
It was baby wipes, like 3 years of baby wipes that had been flushed down the toilet. And what it cost us to fix that?
I don't remember.
It was significant.
I think I did.
So this damage isn't to the actual home where they were flushed?
It was our lines that we had to repair
How do you know where they came from?
because it only had one connection.
They clearly saw that person, and they actually talked to them.
Now, we didn't do anything with that person
No.
Right.
because we didn't have this in place, but it's kind of along those lines of knowingly, recklessly. All those things.
And I know there's a bit of common sense that goes what you should or should not flush down the toilet, but I said, just to be clear, whenever a homeowner buys a home or whatever, they move into the borough, is there a place where that ordinance is fairly clear that?
We talked about the law and ordinance about maybe dispersing some, educating the public, or maybe even keeping it down in the refuse and sewer office, because, you know, if somebody would come in, they'd have to sign up for refuse and
so
sewer.
pamphlet or
You know,
something
give a
in there.
pamphlet saying, hey, make sure these are
You'd
not.
almost have to have them sign off that they got it.
I mean, it's
They have
an
to-
ordinance, so
Okay.
they're responsible.
I think if they
really
could stick a
for that.
pamphlet in there saying, you
And I
know,
can tell you, it says on the baby wipe packages that these are not flushable.
Yeah, most of that stuff's out like
Right.
that.
but I mean, just to make them aware if they do it,
Right.
there is
Sure, educate
fines
them.
attached
Right, we would have to do
doing
that.
Yeah, we could do a pamphlet. We have a pamphlet. We could, you know, I have, well, it's actually not a pamphlet. It's 8.5 by 11, but we could make it into a pamphlet to put down there so they would have an education. We did talk about that on ordinance.
Seems like a logical ordinance.
Hopefully, it's something that we never have to act upon.
Right. As is most ordinance.
You really are an optimist.
I am an optimist, you're right, Mark.
Are you able to make the motion for that, being the chairman of that committee?
Yes.
All right, so I move that we advertise the sewer ordinance amendment.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And next is, we are finally seeking approval of the LERTA ordinance, which we've kind of been working on for
Ever.
over a year.
So what happened with LERTA was, it was sent to Finance Committee for an analysis, I guess, of what type of financial impact it would have on the borough. I know they made a report, I don't remember exactly what they said, but.
They did make a report.
Yeah, they did.
I can't remember.
It was changed in the
We
ordinance.
changed,
It
we
went
changed
to
the rate from like, you
percentages.
know, the percentages that you would get back each year, or
Yeah.
what's the
Yes.
word I want to say? Forgiven? Right.
So,
Thank
The
you.
exemption schedule.
yeah,
So that's what changed, yes.
right. And the exemption schedule is partly set by law, partly we have discretion, so. But, you know, it's kind of back before council to determine whether you want to move forward and advertise it for adoption at the next meeting.
Because there's still some, it still has to move on for a certain process through the school district and the county yet as well, after we kind of give our final say-so, was how I understood it. Was that correct?
Right, well, it would, I mean, we could just pass it ourselves, but what we're envisioning or hoping for is that all the taxing bodies would
All on the same
pass it, and then that would kind of increase the benefit to people who
Right.
want to fix up
And I
these
thought when we talked about this
properties.
originally, when we talked with Mark, or Rob Postal, that he thought the commissioners would be on board, and also that the school district was
I have,
on
yeah.
board.
I have
Yeah,
an
we-
email from the school district. They approved
Okay.
it already
Yeah, so-
at the meeting, and also from the county.
Okay, great. So
It's
everybody's,
just kind of back to us for some final tweaking and
Okay.
the percentages, and, you know.
The only caveat is your ordinances all have to be the same, so when you're getting ready, let's
pass it.
make sure it's coordinated with the county as well as the school district.
So what do we need to do now?
we need a motion to advertise it.
So moved.
So moved.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of advertising the LERTA ordinance, say aye. Aye.
I'm sorry, who made the first motion?
That would be Stephen Diarmid.
And then the second?
Well, I'm not real sure who had the upper hand there, but I heard Aaron.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I seconded it, but Aaron tried to make the motion because he didn't hear.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Made it.
There you go.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, he was all I heard up here in my ear. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So we're done with you, Dave. Now, Mr. Terry.
All right, in the Finance Committee, we're looking at approval from the council as a whole for reallocating the budget funds we had set aside for the West 4th Street Ridge Road demolition and Chestnut Street, for the Chestnut Street demolition in conjunction with the county, and allocating the remainder to the other property in the worst condition.
I did get some information on that, if I can throw some information out to you. We had talked with the Finance Committee that 22 Ridge Road was the worst condition,
Yeah,
because
you-
I did talk to the codes officer. However, in reviewing it again within the last 2 weeks, he took the engineer out to 114 West 4th Street. And the engineer said that the 114 West 4th Street actually moved 1/4 of an inch within 3 months. And it's actually moving towards the street. So there are two different things. 22 Ridge Road is already in the repository. Norman Kratzer owns 114 West 4th Street. That is not in the depository. There are back taxes owed, and the codes officer actually spoke with the county, and you know, we'd have to get their blessing to exonerate the taxes, and you know, we'd have to do that also. And we'd have to check with the school. But the last 2 times that the 114 West 4th Street was cited, which was last year, one was in, I think, in June, and then when we had the ticketing system, they got a $25 ticket, then they got a $50 ticket, then they got a $75 ticket, and then they got cited. And that, the other one was in December when he had just last got cited. And the codes officer told me that Norman Kratzler is willing to give up the property, but is that conservatorship that we'd have to do with that?
Well, I mean, if he's willing to just give it to you, you could kind of do it like the property on Valley Street.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that the worst one is not 22 Ridge Road. They're very close, they were saying, but the engineer did see that it was moving, and it's at 114 West 4th Street.
Now, I think this whole thing kind of took a different direction now based on the beginning of this meeting.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we now have a resident and a business owner who has kind of, you know, made some changes in 2 establishments as is, willing to take on this project.
Yeah.
Well, gee, where does that leave us now? I mean, I think they made very valid points also about, you know, at the time we were talking about Habitat for Humanity building houses here, that was the only option.
Right,
you
but
know.
now there's another option on the table.
Right, and you know, there were very valid points about a home with children, you know, beside a bar and near a busy intersection, and you know, those were things that would concern me as a parent, I know. And, well.
No, I agree. I agree.
Now, Mark, the county has to approve that too, right? What would happen if the county would not and we would want that? Or how does that all work?
You talking about the sale from Kratzler?
No.
The Chestnut Street.
Yeah.
I think all
'Cause
the
it got-
taxing bodies have to approve it.
Right. Oh, okay.
Because they always send it to us for approval.
Right.
So the county, does the county have to see which bid they're gonna take? Do they have to
think
approve
so.
the bid? Because I know it was bid today, the bids were open today. And actually, the highest bid went to the lady that was speaking tonight. She had the higher bid versus the Habitat for Humanity. So what happens if the county,
Well, that changes everything now
Yeah.
too.
What
Do we
happens
even-
if-
We don't need to do anything.
well, what, I was just questioning, what happens if the county wants, you know, says yes or no? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just-
I'm not, I mean, the tax sale laws are really complicated, and I'm not really that up on the fine points of that. I mean, I know they always come here for approval. You know, if the county awarded the bid and the borough didn't approve it, I don't know if that would bind things up. That might hold up the sale out of the repository.
Do they have to take the highest bidder?
No.
I don't know.
I didn't know how that worked.
Let me address a couple things. The county doesn't have to accept the highest bidder, but they're looking at a plan. So if there's a plan in action for properties, whether it's preservation, which is great, or redevelopment, which is also a direction. County has looked at bids before and they turned them down because there was not a plan associated with those properties. So I think the county would be, yeah.
Well, the gentleman that spoke today.
They're gonna look at both plans though.
Yeah,
He
they're
said that
definitely gonna
plan-
look at those plans and, you know, Habitat has the momentum, you know, looking at what the potential is. I'm excited about what could happen. You know, just as CVS was a community solution, it was persons that acquired the properties that were local, and that plan was enacted. I'm sure there's going to be a community solution to this as well. It might turn out to be some kind of compromise. It might be a preservation of one building, and maybe the other one is not of value.
Was the bid on both properties?
There are 3 properties.
3 properties.
3 properties.
4, okay.
In repository, there are 3 properties.
Okay.
And there is an additional lot, which is
Right.
private land,
Okay.
which, Habitat is looking at doing something anyway, potentially. So,
Okay.
just to give you a little
Thank you.
background.
I think it's great that they want to invest.
I guess we
in
don't need to do
communities.
anything with this, right?
Well, I think we should maybe pass, if we would be allowed to get the bids for 114 West 4th Street. If it's fallen down, I'm concerned about, or
Well,
unless
that's
you guys
okay,
don't
but
want
that's not kind of what this was saying,
Well,
so.
114, we've already budgeted.
we have budgeted for. We would just need to get council's approval to send out the bids. And do you want to hold off on 22 Ridge then? Because of
I
not
think-
knowing
we
what's
have to,
going on
yeah.
there. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a safe plan of action. I mean,
Okay.
like I had originally, mentioned when I brought this up in the meeting, we moved forward immediately with the worst property, but I still think you're right. We kind of hold back on the second property. to
Yeah,
see
we
what
hear a
plays
little
out
bit what's
there.
gonna take
Right,
place here.
right. We don't want to act yet.
So you said Krotzer is not in the repository?
Correct. Krotzer is not in the repository. Ridge Road is in the repository. So that,
So I
know
mean,
that
Ridge Road might be easier to acquire.
it
Right.
would be, but it's in
Right.
better. I mean, they're bad shape.
I know,
but
I
yeah.
understand what you're saying.
That's
It's
why I
just you
wanted
wanna
to
make-
let you know.
You want to make sure this guy's going to follow through and actually deed it over
Before we
you
even
Right.
do
put any
anything.
money
Okay,
into it.
okay. Now, the other thing is 22 Ridge Road. I think when we did the budget, we didn't have the actual demo quotes, but 22 Ridge Road's demo quote is 24.8 was the cheapest, and 114 West 4th Street was 17.2. So just, that's something to throw out
We
there.
budgeted 35.
Yeah,
Repair.
for
Right.
both of them, yep, yep. So it's come awful close, so.
That is pretty close.
So based on what Mark said, I mean, maybe we take no action on even moving forward with bid proposals for the
Maybe
demolition.
what we do is see if Mr. Krotzer is.
Yeah,
Right, acquiring the 4th Street property.
Yeah.
so should I just give them a call?
Yeah, I mean, talk to him and we can prepare a deed.
Is that the matter of that, all that you have to do is prepare a deed?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're going to have to find out if the other taxing bodies are going to forgive the taxes. I mean, it wasn't a problem before.
Right.
Right.
We still want to, we don't want to assume.
Okay. And then we can also verify it, that the county will allocate some of their money towards the project.
Yeah, they have
For one,
demolition.
yes, the Act 152.
Yeah.
Okay.
You said it's moved, what, 3 inches in 2
It
months?
said a quarter of an inch
Oh,
within
phew.
3 months.
I was like, damn, it's sliding down the hill.
He's in trouble.
Yeah, we'd be in big trouble. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we're
You don't
not
need to
looking
do
for
anything.
approval on that one, no?
Correct.
No.
All right, so,
Oh, wait,
Can I just make one comment? Or should I wait till public comment?
just, can you wait?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yes,
okay.
Go ahead.
So, in the number 2, we're looking for approval to apply for the blight remediation grant that allocates the $30,000 at the 10% match.
And that 30,000 is coming from our CDBG funds from this year.
2020.
We actually didn't really talk about that. I just actually asked Mark today if, like in finance, we didn't discuss where actually we were gonna take the money from. So we could take it from the capital, or we can also do it from CDBG. I don't know, I know that the grant has to be submitted by the end of
this month.
July. When are they looking to do the work? I was trying to think if the CDBG funds would be available when the
Typically, they're 2-year contracts, so
2 years.
you can look
Okay.
at, how it proceeds from there. Obviously, we have some other time constraints with Valley Street in 2023, so we want to keep the project moving, considering that there's also a new use or reuse of the property.
And if I may just add to the context, we just got the 2019 contract. So, you're looking at this year for 2020 funds to be available, so you wouldn't even be able to start the project per se until around this time next year, assuming that it's a similar time frame.
So would we, most likely need to allocate it from somewhere else, from like the capital fund. I mean, we could, can they use the Act 152 funds to help with that, Jim? Can that be a part of the match? Is that allowable based upon the grant stipulation?
I think as far as, and we talked about this in finance, I don't think they care where the match comes from, but
That's what I thought
you
you
would
said.
then have to get approval from the county. So
Right.
you have to jump
Right.
through another hoop. And we have until the end of this month to do the project. So,
Well, they're having
it's possible.
They're having their meeting on the 16th, so I could reach out to the county tomorrow, and I mean,
Okay.
if that would, but if that's what council wishes to do.
Or you can do, you know, look at that, but also as a backup. Have a backup plan that the other match, if this doesn't work out, you have another backup plan to support that 10% match.
Right. So we would have to utilize general borough capital for a portion of it, whatever the county would not allocate.
For portion of the 30,000.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And how much is the grant?
Like
A maximum of 300.
300,000.
Max of 300,000.
Correct.
Like I said, that's 10%.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. How are the odds in our favor?
The fact that we're a Keystone community, the fact that we, you know, have an active Main Street, and Elm Street, all those kinds of things factor. So I would think, you know, we would be competitive.
How much is to apply for the grant? Is it $100, I think?
I believe the application fee is $100.
The application fee for us to pay would be $100,
I believe
okay?
so.
Mark?
Just to give some additional context, I know, I think it was 3 months ago, I gave a presentation to the council discussing the possibility of you relying on the county to apply for a CDBG competitive grant.
Right.
Without all of your potentially relying on using some of your entitlement funds to have as local match per se towards that competitive grant. Now granted, DCD still wants to see up to 75% of your entitlement application towards that. However, certainly 30% would be about $30,000 would be much better than zero. So one thing to consider that if you are going to potentially dedicate $30,000 of CDBG funds for the 2020 application, you certainly could bank per se on that being your secondary source. So we could potentially apply for a competitive grant if this would not come to fruition. So, you know, that's something to potentially consider.
Okay.
I mean, obviously you wouldn't have to necessarily submit that grant, but at least it's an option as a backup.
How fast is the turnover for that grant?
For the competitive,
Yeah, like I know it takes a while for CDBG money for you to get, but how long does that?
well, typically there's a fall application round where they consider, there's not really a specific time period in which you can apply. Technically, you can apply for a competitive grant anytime. However, there's only certain times in the year which they actually will review the applications. Typically, like I said, you'll have a fall round. We had submitted a project for West Wayne Sewer Project in Wayne Township in the southwestern corner of the county in the fall of last year. And about 2 months ago, we just found out that we had received it. So if we would have potentially applied this year, you would be looking, if it was favorable, you would be looking at potentially having that available as early as the late spring for 2021.
Oh, 2020, yeah, next year.
Also, as Mr. Zuber pointed out, this is something to keep in mind, just so you have general awareness of this. If you are to utilize CDBG funds for demolition, you have to have what's called a reuse plan for that property, meaning that it has to be an eligible activity going forward. I know there was a project that the borough had funded in the past. It was sold to somebody that was not LMI benefit, and that money had to be repaid, as I understand it.
Yep.
So that's something to keep in mind. Now, one thing is,
a reuse, a perfectly acceptable reuse plan, we've done it in the past, is a vacancy. You can just keep it vacant. However, you know, if you are to utilize it for, let's say hypothetically, a public service, you can fill in the blank of what that might be. That is an acceptable reuse of that property. And considering that we have the Valley Street repavement project coming up in 2023, you have 3 years to complete your redevelopment plan. So that might give you additional incentive for any funding agency to give you construction funds if you would like to utilize that for anything else in the future. Just putting more urgency on that. So that's all things to certainly keep in mind. But I know Jim and I talked prior to the meeting, and we're certainly more than happy to meet with any member of the council or Diana or anybody to talk through how some of that might play out. But again, as long as you can commit whatever route you go to saying we're intending on using the funds in some route to show the 10% match, that's kind of what Jim's looking for. He needs it to be in. We're going to have our public meeting for CDBG next month, so if you commit to what direction you want to go even as early as this month, that will give Jim essentially what he needs.
So I guess the question is, do we want to approve this and allocate the $30,000, and where do you want it to come from, correct?
Right.
Well, the question was the question you asked, could it come from CDBG?
Right, and they said about, you know, the time frame wise it would be for CDBG, but he was stating about the competitive grant. That's what Mark just said,
Which would drop.
which would be earlier than the regular CDBG funds. It would be up to council what they would want to do. I think it's a good opportunity, though. I mean, you wouldn't want to lose the.
Where can we best have the monies come from?
I guess that's.
I mean, it'd have to be general borough.
I think so
Capital.
too.
So do
Yeah.
we bring up from the
I
capital
mean,
funds then, instead of CDBG?
Right.
Yeah, we would budget for it next year, but if we needed it this year, do you think it would happen this year? No? That fast?
I think that we would know something probably by October or
Okay.
November. So we're definitely looking at, you know, moving in with the project most likely. Well, in this case, it could happen fairly quickly. I guess the best scenario would be use CDBG, but that might not necessarily be the option.
But can that then be used to replenish capital reserve?
No.
And I don't, yeah.
Yeah, no, we'd have to, unless, could you pay, I don't think you can pay for it and then reimburse, can you? Like a year later, Mark?
That's what I just asked.
Yeah.
There's no reimbursement to CDBG.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So we could use general borough capital, we do have the money in there for it. We
I
have
mean, geez,
money.
we've worked so hard over the past couple of years.
How
here
much do we have in there?
to rebuild that and
Oh.
get on a vehicle replacement plan and,
It says we have 600-some thousand.
yes, and when we came here, there was.
We worked very hard,
30,000.
Right,
yes. you're
but
right.
it's $30,000 for a potential of
Potential max of $300,000, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just a hard one.
And we only spend the 30 if we get the rest of the money, correct?
Right.
Right,
Right.
so,
Make a motion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's a,
I will make the motion to use capital reserves, $30,000.
I second.
any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
All right, last but not least, approval to adjust the pool membership fees for the 2020 season.
And they were just adjusted to compensate for the fact that we weren't open until July 2nd,
So
so.
what we did was took the number of days that, and average what you'd pay per day for a membership, and reduced it to 55 days that they weren't able to go to the pool, and charge the membership for the remaining days that it was open.
Right.
I make a motion, we approve the said
I
membership
did.
fee adjustment.
I second.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Pardon me?
What figure does it make?
It was 50 for a single and 85 for a family of 3.
And then $10 for each additional member.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, Ange, you wanted to say something?
Yes. Okay, just an additional comment to what Jim had to say about the Chestnut Street properties with the plan. I do know that, and Malachi told me that it was okay that I say this, so I do know he's looking at the other properties surrounding that area, purchasing them as well. And if you look at Chestnut Street, other than the apartment building that's there that has had some issues, that behind there has recently had the drug raid, when you go further down that street, there's been a lot of restoration that has happened, and some of our best architecture that we have is on that street. So there might be a plan in place because there was no other plan, but now you have somebody here who is getting active and has an actual real plan. And as far as the revitalization of 3rd Street, Valley Street, and Chestnut Street, I believe Chestnut Street can be the first one to come around. It's the easiest one to come around. Brian Rogers is trying to sell some of his properties right around there. I know Malachi's been in touch with him. So don't count him out. That's all I'm saying. And then I have one question. I saw on the minutes where the acceptance of the Bingaman deed, does that mean that as of tonight, the borough owns that property? Because I do want to give you all a heads up that there are 3 individuals, separate and not tied to each other, that have looked at that Valley Street property and may also be willing to get their own review for engineering as to what it would take for reinforcing that structurally. So if the grant were approved, I asked Jim at the DLI meeting himself if this was beyond repair. He could not tell me no. And also, he told me that as far as the blight remediation, it does not have to be used for demolition. Right. So if we are able to find people that are willing to come together as a team to do something to see if structurally something can be done to that property. We've been inside it, we understand what the gravity of the whole situation is, but if that does happen, we would definitely come back to you all to see if there was a way that if that grant's approved, we could use it for true blight remediation. So it's just another option, just letting you know. So when I say we've been doing our due diligence, I mean we've been doing our due diligence. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now, any other public comments
Yeah, I want to make a motion here.
for executive session?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm
No.
sorry.
I want to make a motion that we retract our approval to hold the fireman's carnival here.
Okay. Do we have a second for discussion? I'll second it just for discussion purposes. Can I second it? I can't, can I? I gotta step down.
You can, you're technically, you should step down.
Yeah, so. You
What's
step
that?
down. I'll step down.
Okay.
And then I'll second it.
I just think with all the COVID-19 and that going and you know, the groups, just like that Warren Baker said, that, you know, you're not supposed to have them, and you know what it's gonna be like. I don't know if you ever went to one of them fireman conventions or not, but.
I looked at our actual curve, or, you know, the graph that they have for the entire state. Now, in full disclosure, it's been 6 days since I've looked at it. And we were still declining or flat in numbers for COVID cases in Pennsylvania.
I say, I can look at 3 different news stations, I can get 3 sets of
Yeah,
statistics, and I
that's
can get
it.
3 different sets of facts. So I just
This
say
was
a
from the
convention.
CDC.
Okay.
But you're right.
I just say those that are fearful of this virus, they do not have to attend, to restrict the general population that can make their own adult decisions. You know, and, I mean, if I was concerned about catching COVID, I would not go to the firemen's
In the
convention.
potential
I'd go to
positive
the
impact
streets
on our
out.
community.
Pardon me?
In the potential positive impact on our community, that we kind of have this one shot at.
If it was
at having it
inside,
here.
I would be more concerned. This is at a park, in tents, in the wide open air. I just feel, and I really feel like Mifflin County has not really been affected. I mean, could this be bad? Could be. Could it be great? It could be. I just think going forward, we're always working out of fear. I think you just freeze yourself in a spot that's not helpful to the mental psyche of the people in this community. I mean, if they
It's a
don't.
little late now.
You know,
I mean, everything's, you know.
I think my
something
opinion
else.
on the matter becomes very clear if you look at my face, but you're right that if you're a healthy individual, you're free to make your choice and you can go to the convention or you don't have to. But what about the people that have to go to work in the restaurant where all these guys are gonna go? Or what about the people that work in the grocery store where they're gonna go get their food, or that work in the beer distributor where they're gonna go get their beer? Those people don't have a choice. They have to go to work, and we're bringing in thousands of people and concentrating them from all over the state, and then, yeah, I can avoid Rec Park that day. I can stay I can just stay home all weekend, but that's because I don't work in a job where all those people can potentially come.
Well, and you're talking about a parade.
Talking about what?
The parade.
Yeah.
People in those jobs, I mean, they're already working in the general public.
I don't disagree, but
But
that's
this
not
is more
inviting.
than this isn't gonna be the general
Right,
public.
that's, our county has done very well. We're now inviting hundreds of people from Allegheny County, which is
Exactly.
bordering on a lockdown, and from Philadelphia County, which is having problems. I'm not worried about what's happening with them with Mifflin County because our numbers are low and people are doing a good job. It's bringing people in from places that are hotspots in the state, that's the question.
That's my concern. I mean, that's the only reason I know it's late. Of course, I voted against this to begin with, but I mean, the more stuff that's happening and the more rulings they're making, I mean, they keep making new rules every day. You know, you're not allowed to congregate more than 250 people at max. And, you know, the restaurants, you know how these people are gonna be packed in restaurants, you know, and you're supposed to have 6 feet and everything else. I'm telling you, I just don't feel that it's a good thing for the community at this time.
Can we just make it protest?
I guess,
Well, we have a first and a second, so I mean, I guess at this point, you take a vote,
I'd like to have a roll call.
you know, and I guess, what was the motion, Larry? Just so we're all clear what we're voting on?
That we retract our approval to have the state firemen's convention here this year.
Okay, I'm just making sure that we're all clear.
I mean, that's basically all we can do.
I agree. Okay.
And then what do you, say that vote passes, I mean, what do you tell these guys? What do you do about the money raised? What do you do about all the effort that's
The
been
money
put
spent.
so far?
Money
Yeah.
spent already.
I mean, the hurdles that they've crossed to make this kind of once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to happen here up to this point, when we're on the downside of this thing, I might add.
I mean, the truth is, this virus never goes away. This virus just simply never goes away.
But you spend the rest of your life with chickenpox virus in your body. You know, this will be the same thing, you know.
And
Millions of people are testing positive that have never, ever been sick, have never had any kind of issues.
Let me ask you a question. Would you
We
want to
don't know
go
if
to
people can
Pittsburgh or
spread it.
Philadelphia, or one of them places right now where they're having a bunch of these cases, and spend the weekend? Go in the clubs with the people and that? Would you want to do that? Would you?
That's not
I don't
my
think that's-
lifestyle, but if
Yeah.
I had something planned, I wouldn't hesitate from doing it. I would take the appropriate
I
precautions.
mean, I'm going to the beach next week.
Well, you can take the appropriate precautions. They aren't.
Right, and Larry, we're not here to police how people think and what they, you know, their level of responsibility, I guess, is what I'm saying. I mean, it's up to an individual, I guess.
Even with that, how do we get around the fact that 250 is the maximum? There's no,
Well,
that's the
yeah,
number, right?
I just think because this is outside in a park, they're not congregated in a hotel room somewhere, they're outside. And I understand, I mean, part of the downfall, these people will patronize our businesses, it was just part of the idea.
When businesses have really been hurting, you know, up to this point is another thing.
I mean, our people aren't gonna be down at Rec Park. That's where the campers are gonna be, that are from out of town.
Yeah, and they said that, you know, I mean, they will patronize around town, I mean, they certainly said that.
And this is what, how long do we have yet?
3 weeks. 2
It's the
weeks.
13th, 14th, and 15th of
Yeah,
August.
yeah.
August.
So I don't know what that equals out to as time left.
That's a month.
Today's the 13th, so it's
Well,
a
one-
month.
Got a mind.
Makes sense.
Yeah, when does it stop? I guess that's the question. I mean, do we as a borough stop activities in the borough? I mean, I think we've always, in our lifetime, had the solemn duty and responsibility to protect the most vulnerable amongst us. That should have always been true long before COVID-19. That's, as a upstanding citizen, that's always should have been our responsibilities. But to restrict those who are healthy and want to make choices and do, I don't see why we should restrict them. I could make the common sense decision if I want to go somewhere or if I don't, for my own reasoning.
In all this time, you know, at least in my mind, and anybody within the borough who has asked me, my position, I've said it publicly and to other council members, and we have generally taken this position, was not to interfere. You know, we didn't come out and get as strict with our businesses like, you know, towns in different areas. You know, we didn't close our playgrounds. We didn't close our parks. We left our community, you know, take responsibility and accountability for themselves. And, you know, we made recommendations. We took precautions to protect our own employees.
Look how long this has been going on, what, 4 months now, or 5 when we're into this thing? You know, if you wanted to stop it, why didn't you stop it months and months ago instead of waiting until a couple weeks before the event? I mean, it's
Well,
not
Jeff,
fair.
I tried to, but this is the last chance we're gonna have.
Yeah, that's it. It's your last chance here to, well.
Well, let's vote.
Well, and I might also add too that the comparison within the note that we had all received about, you know, local festivals and things like that being canceled. You know, I was the event coordinator of one of those fairs. We see 30,000 people a year, and we canceled that because it was in April. You know, it was in the kind of the guts of this thing. Liberty Fest, I tried to hang on to that to the very, very end. But vendors kind of got sketchy, so I, you know, had to cancel.
Yep, go ahead.
Dave Campbell,
So the motion is to not allow it, correct?
to retract the have the firemen's convention this year.
No.
Stephen DeArmond,
Yes.
Mark Terry,
No.
Larry Sear,
Yes.
Aaron Wilson,
No.
Bill Wilson,
Yes.
Nina Shade,
Wait, what is the motion again?
to retract to
Sorry,
have the
right.
firemen's convention. They're not gonna have it then, depending on the vote, obviously. To retract the firemen's convention, to have the firemen's convention this year. And it's 3-3 so far.
Retract- No.
So you don't want to retract it?
Correct.
Okay.
I had to think about that. So,
Okay, so then they will have it this year.
I hope that
I think
people are
you missed
able to
Bill.
make their own decision.
No,
he voted.
Oh.
You
Yeah,
voted,
he
right?
voted.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
thought so.
I got you, Bill, yeah.
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 Okay.
Yep.
Now, any other public comments? Okay.
I don't think it's one line.
go into executive session?
Executive session, we're going to discuss the pending litigation with the municipal authority.
Okay.
And we should also note that there was an executive session
The 25th?
held on the 25th of June.
Yes,
I had that written down.
you did.
About it. Mark.
Okay.
And personnel issues also.
Yes,
Mark.
and
Physical. Okay, so we're gonna go into executive session.
Yep.
Aaron, I'll call you on your phone then?
That sounds good.
Okay, thanks.